All right. Square away everything with the baby. We're good to go. We give a minute or two for people to show up. If not, then there's at least enough high-level people here. We can talk about stable cards at the bare minimum. Okay. She can do that too. While I'm at it, start laying out this stuff. Alright. Let's do.
What's up, Joey?
What's up? What's up?
Shit. Land. Perfect. Land. Creature. Instant. All right, we'll get started. I don't want to waste anyone's time. So last time I threw out a poll for topics to go over with the deck. One of the topics that was brought up, or as a good suggestion, was Mulligans in Swiss as opposed to Mulligans in top cuts, which have a very different mentality, generally have a higher level of play, a little bit more. I don't want to say like just better players, but like just generally things have to be more tight, right? Like making small mistakes can cost you bigger in top 16 than it can in Swiss, because Swiss you can always just come back and win the next round, whereas top 16 is pretty much that's it. So um personally, and as always, if there are things that I say in my assessment that either people disagree with or like have questions about, like that's why these are open discussions. I don't think they should ever be really something that's just one person talking or one person having opinions. It should be a pretty open discussion. But whenever I mulligan in general, the first thing I always want to think about is, do I have a plan? And do I have a plan for at least 3 turns? In this deck, 3 turns means a win, right? Or generally speaking, it's supposed to mean a win. But uh, that is a universal mentality I have for top 16. It's a universal mentality I have for Swiss. It doesn't matter. You should have a plan going into your game, uh, no matter what. And if you don't have a plan going into your game, then generally speaking, either A, you're really confident you're going to draw into something that's really going to work, which I'll be honest with you is rarely ever just going to be how things work for you, or it's going to be a really tough time, which is most of the time. Very few times have I ever sat there and been like, look, I have to keep this, even though I don't really have a plan. But it's more like a mold like 4 or 5, where it's like, look, I don't have a guaranteed plan, but I definitely have something I can do. Um, Mulligans in this deck can range from my average mulligan is around six, a little over six, generally, according to my play nice. But mulligan to five should not be a death sentence in this deck. Really, in any like level of Mardu deck, mulligan to five should not be a death sentence. But it's just not ideal, right? Especially in these high resource games that we're going to be seeing a lot in the meta. I haven't played in a lot of big tournaments lately because of wrestling season and all that, but from what I have observed and what I have seen and what I'm sure some people have experienced, and again, if I'm wrong, please tell me. Uh, there's a lot of games where it ends up being, well, either I won on turn three or I just get drowned out by the blue farm or the Kinnan or the like whatever insert value deck here, and you just drown you out with double wristics and they just bury things on the stack. Is that what a lot of people have seen in here, or is that kind of off base?
I try to push before they even get something like that out, honestly.
Right, but that's not 100% of all games, right? So, like in tournaments, if you do get past turn three, what do the games normally look like? Is it, or what? Actually, here's a more accurate question, or a more concise question. Um, do we see a lot of decks at the table lately where it's like I know for a fact if this goes past turn three, I'm gonna get drowned out, like Kinnan, Blue Farm, Dog Thrass, Rog Thrass, stuff like that. Is that a pretty common meta?
Yep, I'd agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's weird because I feel like if the game goes to like turn four and I've kept like a stable opening hand and I just get Timna, the game is just going to be mine. But that's just more like personal opinion than
So you don't
experience.
you don't feel bad going against like Rog Ishai with a Timnut plan?
I haven't had a chance to jam against that.
It's
Um,
it's just wrong side with white, dude. Like
yeah. But again, I just haven't
I
had a chance to jam against it. So,
yeah, I mean I'm gonna be
but
honest, that deck, man. If you just take away the Ristic Study, it's a Copass deck, like as is
Yeah,
wrong side.
oh
I
shit.
haven't seen a Rogish eye deck yet, but I've played against some blue farms, Kinnins, Magdas, some Ashlings actually, and I
Ashlings
per-
plural,
person, huh?
like plural Ashlings, like plural.
No, just like the one Ashling,
Oh, okay,
like
okay.
the four drop.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But like my if the game goes long, my game plan is usually just to get a silence effect off, and at that point, no one can stop me because most of the lines are creatures.
Yeah.
So, like, they may have a Risic study, but as soon as I get the Ruthless Technomancer line, I just start paying for the Risic, and they can't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems like that's one of the reasons why we did a lot of the creature combos to begin with was because it's like, well, creatures are quote unquote uncounterable, and like that mystic reward doesn't mean anything to me anymore. So uh, that
Especially
definitely.
with the new Squelcher. God, I love that card.
So that's it. I want to get into that discussion like after the Mulligan discussion because as much as I love the idea of Squelcher and I think it's just that's just a better defense grid in a lot of ways, I'm a little concerned about how much that card in general is going to change the meta in the sense of like people are going to run a lot more creature removal or they should be running a lot more creature removal to counteract that. I don't know what you guys have seen, but I like I had a game the other day where game one was I got turn two Razaketh out, and they had two people had removal for it immediately. Like okay, and then the next game was two MBTs and a misstep, and I'm like okay, and then the next game after that, like people had removal then too. It's like people are just gonna keep removal for creatures because of Hexing Culture's existence, and then there's other games where just people are greedy as fuck. So I don't know, like
I think I think what's going to end up happening is, yeah, people will slowly keep like more board interaction because of it, but they're also, I think, eventually going to start realizing that like you still need to keep your counter spells. Like you can't just put
yeah.
more board removal in because the board doesn't having like a bounce spell does nothing against Thoracle combo. You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't think
Like
people are gonna go. Here's the thing. I think the basic combo packages for like, or not combo packages, but the basic
interaction.
Yeah, counter spell packages. The mainstays will always be there. It's the stuff like dispel slash misdirection, stuff like that that might get cut
Oh,
for
sure.
swords. But like, yeah, I agree that I mean, if people are trying to be ahead of the meta, that's what they should be doing. Is that you have to have things for hexing sculpture, or you're just going to lose to it. Um, but yeah, so back to not to that large tangent,
The
but
the most I see as far as like that goes is no one's really, at least for my meta. I'm in the southeast. No one's really trying to remove it, and if they do, it's a bounce. They're either trying to clone it or Gilded Drake it. But at the same time, I'm fine with it because then they waste a removal on not a combo piece. Like I'm feel free to swords my Voice of Victory or my Squelcher. I'm going to do this DCM line or this Ruthless Technomancer now that you've wasted removal.
sure. Um,
Like I've like 5 or 6 silence effects. Like I'm off. Personally, I'm not on Grand Abolisher, and I'm testing out
Not
cutting
again.
Ranger Captain, but
well,
I'm on like Squelcher, Silence, Orange Chant, Voice, uh, and Defense Grid.
My concern with Squelcher isn't so much the um removal spells increasing, it's people playing more clone effects because creatures are a lot harder to interact with regardless of where they are. And clone effects just give you, like, especially if you're like in a blue red X shell, not only can you play Squelcher, but you can play a clone or a Drake effect for it. So my concern is more of that happening and then that person going for a win. Where otherwise their clone was kind of like borderline dead because there's nothing valuable to clone outside the Squelcher. So like that's my kind of concern, but we also shouldn't be the ones interacting with the stack anyway. Like if they have it, then you can just chop it to them having a silence effect regardless. You know.
yeah. I mean, there's not much. There's really nothing we can do against silence effects, anyways, right? Like, and
So
that's a whole other ballgame with like these mulligans. Is that one of the big things that I'm noticing with at least the gameplay I'm watching is that the meta right now feels very much like NBC decks that bury spells and bury activations on the stack. Like that's the whole point of it. Like that's all they're supposed to be trying to do. Um,
mhm.
but in any case, as far as mulligans go, of Swiss versus
You want to join the
so-
Discord?
say again. Uh, is Swiss versus non-Swiss games. So again, having a plan, number one, is the like, in my opinion, the ultimate goal that you can do. And sometimes that plan is to maybe force a draw. And I don't mean that because I like to do that. I don't like forcing draws. I don't like putting the table in that situation. I don't like having games where it's like, well, I'm not gonna actually try and put up wins. I'm just gonna try and make sure people don't win. But there is a place in Swiss where you are locked in and where you are like, I don't really care about the win or not, and you mulligan and you have two silences in your hand and some mana. And it's like, that ain't the worst. Like I've definitely seen worse hands to do that. It's again not the go-to. It's certainly not my goal to have that. But mulligans in Swiss versus top 16, in my opinion, go based on two things. Number one, that I don't have to worry about, like, how do I say this? I don't need to sit there and stress about, can I see a turn 3 win? Can I see a turn 3 win? Can I see a turn 3 win? Sometimes it's okay. Like you're in C4, you have an Esper deck, a blue farm, and like a Magda. And it's not the worst thing in the world to try and jam second. Like that's not the worst. And you might have to keep a hand where you have to do that. And that's again not the goal, but it's not the end of the world if you get a really good 6 or a really good 7, where it's like I can definitely jam second here. It's a turn 4 play with some value pieces, but that turn 4 push is going to be insanely hard to stop. Like that is fine. Whereas in a top 16 game, I might sit there and go, that's just not going to be fast enough because I know who's at the table and I know what people are doing or I know what decks I'm looking at. And it doesn't matter if I have an insanely good turn 4. Turn 4 is just not going to happen. So I cannot have the same mentality as I would going in a Swiss round where it's like, look, I lost the round, so be it. Like top 16 is that's it. Um, a great example of this was at the last interview I was at, where there was a TNT, there was a gosh, what was it? It was TNT, Kinnan, and Rogsai, and me in fourth seat in Swiss, and I'm like, I kept a turn 2 Ranger Captain and that's about all I can in an Esper, and that's all I could do. And it was a mold of 5. Kinnan mold to like 2. And ended up losing because the wrong side pushed 3 turns in a row and got stopped, but it used all the resources of Kinnan and me to do everything. And TNT just kind of ran away with it because they had a Ristic and a Smothering Tithe. So like not much we could do about that. But that's not something I would chalk up to like, damn, I if I didn't roll for that, we just outright lose the wrong side immediately. It didn't matter. So sometimes like, you have to accept those losses sometimes, and you have to accept those mulligans. But again, not always your go-to. What, Joey? I know you're in here. What is your biggest? Um, what is your mentality about mulliganing with top 16 versus Swiss?
Well, the big thing is like the pod comp. So you were talking about like those really good turn 4s. I'm inclined to keep those if there's like another turbo deck in the pod, as well as 2 responsible decks. So if I'm looking at like for me and my meta, if I'm looking at like Kinnan, Cheshire, Rogsai, me, I'm I'm more inclined to keep a turn 4 because I know that Rogsai is going to try and push fast and early so that they can get under those more grindy decks. And so I'm going to use that to my advantage. And basically, like we have a grind plan, so we can just wait until they push. We don't have to push first, so we can wait pretty much as long as we can. And I know that Rogsai knows that the longer they wait, the more out of control that game's going to get for them. So they're going to be forced to push, and then when they do push, that's when our window is going to be the most advantageous for us to push.
Um,
But outside of that, if I'm looking at 3 responsible decks, I'm looking for a turn 2 or a 3.
so let's say you have a Roxai and 2 responsible decks in your pod. Do you keep a mulligan that's above 5 that may not have a turn 2 push or turn 3 push, but it has a silence in hand?
You're saying in a top 16?
Let's go
Or
Swiss. Swiss. Well,
okay.
here. Let compare the two. One's like yes, Swiss, and then one's top 16. Like in both situations.
So if I'm above 5, I don't. So I agree with like I'm okay with going to 5, and I still feel like even in 4 seat going to 5, I still feel like I'm in the game. I don't think I've lost the game, and I don't think it's really that big of a deal like a lot of other people say. If I'm looking at a 4 and I see like a silence in hand, especially in Swiss, I'm already looking at that game as I'm trying to force his draw. I know it's like it's shitty, and I agree. I don't want to do that, but like realistically, especially like 4 seat mold of 4 and a pod where there's a bunch of responsible decks, there's no possible way I'm gonna get out of there with the win unless like the fucking stars align and everything goes my way. So I'm holding on to that silence for dear life, and I'm forcing a draw. If I'm in a top 16 game, that's obviously not an option. So I'm honestly, if I'm looking at a 4 and my only game plan is silence, I'm probably just going to go to 3, and I'm going to hope that I get like land Esper or land Darkrit Necro or something like that. Like, if I'm in a top 16 game, I know that silence isn't going to get me to a draw because it's not going to matter. So I'm going to continue looking for a high roll, even if it's like land, fast mana, and then like another land. Like turn 2 Timna on a mole to 3. I'll take it, especially because you're going to gain agency because people are going to see that you're not really a threat.
It's funny that you say that. I had a game like that in the last game where it was like I bowled a 4, seat 4, turn 2 Timna, but the blue farm ahead of me had a turn 1 Dranith. I'm like, okay, like,
Yeah.
like so be it, so be it. Totally screwed him over in the process, like doing that, like royally fucked himself doing that, but c'est la vie kind of thing. Like
Oh
it
yeah.
just do be that way. Okay, so mulligans in general, when you are looking at your hands, do you sit there and go, I'm not, if I don't immediately see a turn 3 win in my hand with this 7, do you pitch that? What is your mentality when you look at that?
So I look at it for the most part, yes. I want to turn 3. So if I'm looking at first 7, second 7, I'm really wanting to shoot for that turn 3. However, again, it's pod comp. If there is like a faster deck in the pod and there's 2 decks that are a little bit more responsible, and I see one of those like really good protected turn 4 pushes, or even like a guaranteed turn 4 push, and I know I have a couple outs to make it a turn 3 push protected, I'm inclined to keep those if I know that there's a faster deck at the pod. If it's more of like a well-rounded, where it's like 3 mid-range decks, or even like if there's 2 turbo decks and 1 responsible deck, I'm probably not going to keep it, just because I know that that other turbo deck is also looking to have the same game plan of pushing second. And so it's really just pod comp, but generally I'm looking for a turn 3, and if I'm not at 5, I'm probably putting it back.
Interesting. So you really, I will say this. He's bringing up the same statement over and over and over again, which I think is extremely important for those people that are not practiced with mulligans or understanding like mulligan mentality. Pod comp is everything in mulligans. Like you can have a really good mulligan, unless it is a god tier level mulligan, and then you're just sitting there going like, look, I don't care about my uh like I don't care what's in the pod. But I can tell you also from experience, even just very recently within the last week, that even then will not be great. That's not a greatest mentality to go through. For instance, the game I'm talking about is a seat 4. I have Gemstone Cavern, Land, Ragavan, Lotho, uh, Land, and Adnaz and Culling the Weak, which is by all accounts a god tier hand. Like that is amazing. My draw for turn was a Simeon Spirit Guide. So Lotho, turn 1, Lotho Ragavan, pass for turn 1. That is as good of a start in this deck as you can find in most cases. I don't think anyone that's played this that has played this deck for a long time would say no to that hand for turn 1. But
Oh yeah, snap deep.
yeah, okay, then 2 MBTs in a 2 MBTs and a misstep later, I lose that game. Like, yeah, it happens. Yeah, it's a thing. But there are just some hands that you just don't care. But 100%, I think that it needs to be stated. The reason why Mulligans is so hard in general in this game is because pod composition is everything. If you don't understand what the decks around you are doing, you don't understand what the meta is, or you don't understand what different decks are trying to do, it's very hard to win. Like in any deck, it's very hard to win. Right? You need to understand what everyone's doing around you. So I think that's a very good point that he's making constantly. That is like you have to consider what's going to happen around you before you just sit there and go, well, I can just do this. You know what I mean? But
I also want to say I don't think it's I don't think it's an excuse to not know what a deck is doing, because there are two other opponents that also, you know, have their experiences and their different information that they're going to be able to at least tell you an idea of what a deck is doing if you don't know what they're going to do. Like if you're generally looking at a deck and you're like, damn, I have no idea what this deck is trying to do, just ask your opponents and the pregame conversation. Be like, hey, I have no idea what Menemacon or whatever the fuck that deck is called, the mono blue
Oh,
deck that just plays a bunch of Cheerios. You're like, dude, I've never seen this deck before. I have no idea what it's doing. I guarantee someone at that table is going to have somewhat of an idea.
I will say, like, that is probably one of the first things I'll say at a table when I sit down, other than hello, like, hope everyone is having a good old time. But also, immediately I'll look at the table and the pot. I'm like, does everyone know what everyone's doing here? Does everyone know what everyone does? And if the answer is no, by anybody, I will make sure that it's talked about. Like, it has to be talked about, right? Because you can't sit there. He's right. There's no excuse to sit there and go, I just didn't know what the deck did, but this other guy did, and he could have told me when to interact. Well, then why didn't you talk to them? Like, why didn't you ask? And
it's
es- especially in a Mardu deck, especially in a deck that
excuse
does
me.
not run blue, you have to be the facilitator of discussion. Like, I understand that there's a lot of yappers out there and a lot of high level players that want to be the ones that discuss, but you have to dictate where that discussion's going, and you have to sit there and be like, move like, and I don't mean deflect. I don't mean sit there and like, well, they're the problem, me not the problem. I mean make sure that it's clear that everyone understands potential at the table, including you. Right? We're a sorcery speed deck, which means everything that they say, oh, I'm scared of it, bro. It's sorcery speed. You can just interact whenever you want. Like, don't worry about it. Or if you really are worried about it, talk to me. What are you worried about? What's the worst thing that you think can happen to you right now? And we'll go from there. Because I've definitely had that discussion too. And it's actually helped me resolve ad nauseum. Actually helped me resolve necropotence. And you sit there and go, what is the worst thing that you want, like, and that you can think of right now? This. Okay, well, I'm just not going to do that. I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to do. And they may not trust you at first, but after a while, if you're sincere about everything that's going on at the table, people will eventually listen. It's just you know, I haven't seen a table where they haven't.
It's funny
Yeah.
because this whole conversation is kind of why I put the deck down for a while. Is because at like multiple tournaments, especially after like Sylvie's win, everybody was having like the pregame conversation. Do we know what Dargo's doing? Like, yep, it's a turbo deck. You gotta keep interaction. It's like, all right, sure, I'm a sorcery speed deck, but you don't need to blow your load on me. And I would end up keeping like safe mid range hands because it's always like pods of like Rock Thras and like Blue Farm at the time. So it's like, all right, this is just like gonna be a slow, grindy game. And then we lose to the random Thoracle combo from Tivit, and nobody kept interaction. So it's just like we're having these conversations, but the people around me don't actually follow through with what's being discussed, and they just keep random stuff. And this is like, all right, well, this is just frustrating, and I don't want to be the boogeyman for no reason, you know.
So you went to blue
Yeah,
farm.
you okay. So this, I don't know how people are going to feel about this, but like, I know generally people play turbo decks so they don't have to yap. In my personal opinion, there is not another deck that I yap on harder than Tim the Dargo. And I'm not
Oh
talking
no,
about
no, I
deflecting.
was
I'm just
talking.
talking about
Yeah,
general information of what I'm trying to do. Even casting like an Altar of the Wretched. Yes, scary card. I draw 7 cards. I totally get it. However, there's 2 Rhystic studies, and those 2 blue farms has already drawn at least 10 cards, and you're scared of me drawing 7.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so
of
like
course.
you just have to lay it out and be like, I understand that my deck is scary and that there's a lot of heat on it, but I'm not. What I'm doing isn't actually that bad comparatively to what is already happening. And so what I like to do, like people will be like, "Oh, I'll give you a turn. I won't push this turn." I've found that if you just give information, it's better. So like to resolve an alter, a lot of the time I'll be like, "How about this? I'll draw 7, I'll mill 7, I'll show you my whole hand." And yeah, like that's insane. But like at that point, they have all the agency. So what else can I do? Let them counter spell, let them bounce my Dargo, and I get nothing? No, I'd rather just take the 7 cards, let them see it. And then honestly, most of the time, they're not a Dargo player, so they're not going to see the lines that I see anyway.
Yeah.
I yeah, I agree. So I think that there's a distinct. Actually, does anyone have any? Before I go into this part of the discussion, does anyone have any further questions about mulligans in general before we move on to like what yapping really means in this deck? Because I think that's actually a great segue and very important part of this deck in particular that people do not do enough. And the difference between yapping and discussion, in my opinion, is distinct. But does anyone have any questions on mulligans at all before we move on?
I have a quick question.
Sure. What's up?
So a lot of times people are talking about early win attempts, uh, either turn 2 or turn 3, whether that's creature based or breach based. Are those just like full send, no silence, no voice, or are like people pushing for like these early like protected wins as well, more than
So,
unprotected?
in my experience, turn two is rarely ever protected. Not saying it's never, but it's very rare that I have a turn two win that is also protected under a silence. But that doesn't mean it doesn't happen, right? If this deck does do that, turn three can be protected again because you can always go turn two voice, turn two GA, wait till it gets to your turn, kind of thing. I also want to be clear that I consider a turn that goes turn three GA Final Fortune, then push like on my second like my next turn. That's still to me a turn three win because no one else got a turn in between me getting another turn. So like technically is that turn four? Yes, but like that is a turn three win to me because no one else saw a turn after I cast the Final Fortune. So that is much more like that's a pattern I really want to start like thinking about more and more and more as I play this deck is like I want that's why Chance for Glory slash Warriors O slash Last Chance is like heavily considering for me because I think that the entire mentality behind here's something that you can't stop anymore. Okay, we all good that you cannot play on my turn. Well, I'm having another turn, and sometimes that's all you need. And many times in this deck, that's all I needed was just one more turn. But turn two and three protected is not as common as I'd like it to be, but especially not turn two. But it is a thing. Joey, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was just gonna like just use your words. Like, there's a lot of videos out there, but basically, like what I like to do generally is if I have a line, I'll just ask the table like, "Hey, does anyone have a reason for me not to go for it here?" And if no one shows me anything, I'll give them like a little pointer and be like, "Hey, this guy deployed a Ristic study. I'm gonna jam into it. Someone show me a reason just to skip all that, and I'll play Timna and hang out." Like why waste your counter spell and also feed this guy 5 cards? Give me a reason. And then again, if no one gives me a reason, I'm sending it. Because I'm going to assume that no one has anything. And if they do, this deck's built to come back or Mardu. So a lot of the time, like if we eat a counter spell, especially my version with all the reanimates and stuff, we'll just send it again. So it's not really that big of a deal. But I just ask the table and make them show me something. And then it gives you information, and you're not feeding that risk study, having someone pull further and further ahead.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate the feedback. Thanks.
Uh, okay. Then let's talk about the thing that he just talked about, which was the yap. All right. I know in my primer I did mention that I'm not. This deck is not a yapping deck. This is not meant to be a deck that has you politicking, but politicking is not really what I mean by what we're doing in this deck. What I think of yapping in this deck is just explaining what's going on
I'll
at
be
the
back in a bit.
like what is
I'm going to meet up
what
with
is
my buddy Jace.
What's that?
I'm just going to meet up with my buddy Jace.
Are you gonna
Hot mic.
all right. So it is just exactly what is going on at the table. Whether that means they are uh whether that means, hey, we are just chilling, like Joey said, like, hey, anyone else concerned about Ristic drawing 20 cards? Anyone else concerned about that? Like, because I'm kind of concerned about that. Or them getting a tutor, like, that's the second time they've tutored this game. They have, or a lot of times I use Rock Thrust. I don't know how prevalent that deck is right now. I assume it's still a thing, but like there would be times where like, oh, Rock Thrust is just dirt. Like, Rock Thrust has 12 mana on turn two. That's a problem. Like, I don't care really that it's like, well, it's 4 mana to get another card. Okay, we're still seeing 6 cards potentially before my next turn. Like, no one else is gonna care about that. Okay, okay. Um, and then really pointing out one of the biggest things that I have done in games is I will just like kind of sarcastically lightly go, well, that's an interesting line. And someone inevitably will go, what? And I'll go, well, I'm just looking at his board, and here's the line I see with his deck. And either A, that person will either retort and say, oh, uh, no, I can't do that. Like, no, you can't right now. Or no, my line, like, I'm incorrect in how the line works. And it's like, no, that's how the line works. Okay, so then you don't have it right now. Right? That's my first thought. Or B, they have to sit there and flat out say, yeah, that's definitely a potential, or they just lie, which is always a thing. But we're just gonna assume people aren't gonna be liars at this point. Um, but I do think that the yap at the table is facilitating what is a problem at the table, including what is a problem on our board as well. Um, I get really irate with people that are saying you're just deflecting, brother. I'll tell you what's going on at the table. Again, this is a sorcery speed deck. Nothing I do at this table, sans of silence, is something that you actually can't respond to at any given point until even after I start doing Deadpool loop with Techno. You let me get to a point, then yeah, you can't respond. But at that point, you let me get to that point anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I think that yapping, and I think Joey's point of like talking at the table is very different from politicking and being like, please let me have necropotence, ooh woo, not that, like, please let me resolve my PETA, woo ooh woo, like, it's not that bad. Like, I just don't think that's what we're talking about when we're talking about yapping. When I see a lot of people blue farm uh any type of control deck that's Esper, just let me have the Ristic, ooh woo, like it's no big deal. Like that's a very different conversation than what we're trying to do at this table. Is that Joey, is that more what you're talking about when it comes to the yap, or are you actually saying like, no, I'm begging for my Adnos to resolve?
So it's actually a little bit of both in my experience. I've talked with Atlas a lot about different political tools you can use because he's a player I look up to, and we're on like completely different sides of the spectrum, right? But like we had a really good conversation recently where basically we were talking about like how does somebody get how does somebody politic their way into getting something like a necropotence or like an ad nauseum resolved? And I actually think that we kind of have a bonus in our deck because, and again, this stems from the general misunderstanding of what it is that we're trying to do. So, like a card like Necropotence, right? People generally see it at a Rocksai, at a Blue Farm, whatever it may be, and they're used to like the full jam Necro cast Born win on that same turn. That's not really what we're trying to do with Necropotence. We're trying to Necro study, get advantage, and then consecutively push wins over and over with the card advantage that we're getting. Sure, you can full send a necro. That's not typically what I like to do, but you can full send a necro and you can final fortune or Chance for Glory, or you can do E Zone, whatever it is. You can do that, or you can just find 4 cards, push a win, don't get there, cool, refill my hand. Play 5 cards, push a win, don't get there, cool, refill my hand. Like you can continuously do that. And our deck is so threat dense that generally we should be able to put something together every single time that we do this. So what I'm getting at is like a political tool that we can use is so we cast Necro and obviously they're going to be terrified of it. They show us a counter spell. We could say, hey, there's another scary deck at the table. I understand Necro's a really, really potent card. However, what if this Necro only sees 4 cards every time I activate it? Right? What if it only sees 5 cards? You can go a little bit higher, lower, depending on how this conversation started or whatever. But if you can get that Necro to resolve under the conditions where you only see 4 to 5 cards, that's already in line of what you're trying to do anyway. Sure, you're not going to have the assuming you're not going to break the deal, you're not going to have the route of full sending a Necro. But in my personal opinion, you don't need to ever full send a Necro because our deck is full of tutors and ways to win the game.
I
And
would
then so
agree.
like same thing with like cards and like cards like ad nauseum, right? Like, yes, like I consider myself very much an ad nauseum guy. I love casting ad nause, going to 2 and sending a win. But people at the table are going to be reasonable. So you can say something like, hey, I get ad nauseum is really, really scary. Totally understand. However, what if you controlled my ad nause, but you make it reasonable? And the important part of that is the line of make it reasonable, because a reasonable person is not going to say, okay, flip 1 card, you're done. A
They're also
reasonable
not gonna
person,
they're also not gonna sit there and go, okay, I flip till I die. Like
exactly.
no, like no.
Yeah, very, very different distinctions there. Say be reasonable. And you say this to obviously the person is going to counter your spell, and you're just having a conversation with them like, hey, look, this is my deck. This is what I'm trying to do. This is my last thing. What if you hold your counter spell for this other scary deck? You control my ad nauseum, but be reasonable. And they're like, okay, cool. So they'll flip a couple cards. Maybe you'll get like a random 3-drop like a PFB, and they're like, oh, that's value. It's not really that much. Flip another thing, and it's like, okay, this is an infernal plunge. Like it's a little bit of mana, like whatever, right? Flip another thing, and it's like a rock, and you're like, it's a little bit more mana, but like you have nothing in hand, like it's not doing anything, right? And then boom, you flip your payoff. So now you have mana, you have PFB for your backup, and then they flipped your payoff. But at that point, it's already too late, right? Because you already got your mana, you flipped your payoff, and they're like, oh shit, okay, that's 4 really, really good cards in our, again, very, very threat dense deck. And those cards can go into our hand, and sure, they get to keep their counter spell, but what you gained was information, and your shit's not countered.
So I actually had a situation very much like this. I don't say you can control my ad nauseam and be reasonable. My go-to, and again, it's the same idea, it's the same concept. It's just I will flip 4 non-land cards, whatever they are. I'll stop. What if they're all rocks? What if they are? I do not care. I'll flip 4 non-land cards for you. Like that. That is what I'm going to tell you. Um, but I had a game where I cast Adnaz, and there was 2 Wandering Minstrel decks, and the other one of them just like clearly pushed, getting ready to win next turn. Let me dig deep with Adnaz. Went to cast my Burnt Offering on Dargo, and then silenced me. Then I said, okay. Like left me with essentially no way to help out the board in any way, shape, or form. And then the next guy, literally the next guy in the turn order, said, "Okay, Thassa, like Divine Tutor or Divine Constellation." And I'm like, you could just stop me when I put Adnons on the stack and just had a conversation with me. And he's like, "Well, I didn't think that you would do that." Like, it, you gotta ask, man. Like, I'm not sitting here reading your mind that you have a silence in your hand. So having a conversation, generally speaking, that doesn't mean have a conversation every, but having a conversation, even when he put the silence on his stack, I was like, okay, you can do that here. I can stop pushing here. Like I can stop. If you do this, you're gonna leave me with no way to help you at the table. He's like, yeah, silence, and we literally lose immediately. So it's like, okay, like so be it. Then that's the way it is.
So in this part of the conversation, as somebody who recently like picked up Blue Farm and Rockstar for like the last like month and a half, it's as the player who has the agency with the interaction, it just letting you have anything, as Joey even said, like, oh, you let me find my rocks, my PFB, and then I flip my payoff. Or I get my Necro and I get 5 cards. 5 cards every turn is still really good in our deck. Like in none of those situations is letting us have that a reasonable decision. So it's really hard to, as
Well,
somebody who's been in that seat of politicking with people, it's just,
what do you define as reasonable? What do we define as, or what do they define as reasonable? Is actually that's a subjective word, and that's why I don't use it.
of course,
Because
of course.
like
For
I think
me, letting any of these spells resolve, if I have the ability to interact, is not a reasonable decision on my part. As somebody who's
Yeah,
been
but
in that position.
that also stems from you being a prior Dargo player. You,
Of
you gotta
course.
people have a general idea of what the deck is doing, and everyone knows the lines for the most part. Everyone knows the concept of what it is what we're trying to do, but they don't understand the rate in which we can actually enact our lines, and
Yeah.
that's where the real power is. And so, like, and especially if there's another turbo deck at the table that you can exploit, it's on for me personally, it's very easy to get myself into a position where I can get stuff to resolve. I don't know if I got a silver tongue or whatever, but I just like, I'm like, hey, like, I'm willing to be reasonable. Yes, I'm a turbo deck, but like, my deck can also grind and I can play the mid range game and I can help out at this table. If you give me a reason to do that, I will help rather than try to win here. So like you actually do have a lot of political leverage because our deck isn't just straight turbo with no backup plan. We can just hang out. And you just have to express that.
No, of course. But like the point that I'm just making is kind of like being devil's advocate. Because 100%, I agree with you. The issue is that like when you let these things resolve, you put yourself in such a position that now you have somebody who resolved an ad nauseam and the Necra. You can't do anything about that anymore. You know what I mean? Even if there is another turbo deck like a Rockside right after us, me using my counter spell on the rock side and then losing to you on the following turn is still the same result for me. So I think as somebody who's been the blue farm player here, I don't do this yapping because this doesn't help me actually win the game. You know what I mean? I think too many accept deals like this under the thought process that, oh, their Anos is going to reveal silence, pyroblast, redirect lightning, and a bunch of mana rocks so they can cast them. You know what I mean? That's not what's going to happen. You know, and I think trying to politic in a way where they're going to feel that that's what's going to happen, to me anyway, just doesn't sit right because it's like I'm preying on somebody to just make a wrong decision when the right decision should always be what's made, and that's how I like to win my games. You know what I mean? And
but
as
the
somebody
thing
who's
is,
been
it's
in
not
that
always the right
that
decision. That's the point.
what was that?
That's not. It's not always the right decision. That's the point. Is that the
No,
the
no,
only
I agree. I agree. I'm just saying though, as somebody who's been in that damned if you do, damned if you don't spot a lot over the last like year, it's really hard for me to take Joey's stance of discussing it like this because it's like I know what the deck does, and I know what the deck after me does. So it's like you can have me stop at a certain point, but like after I stop at a certain point, I have all the resources I need anyway. You know,
Yeah,
and
I
then
mean
so
I've also sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
no, you're fine. No, you're fine. I was just taking a breath. You're good.
Yes, so I've also played both ends of the spectrum. I've played hard control and then like I played rock size super turbo. Um and I again I'm gonna have to disagree with you because I've definitely
Mhm.
been like I've been a hard control deck like Tivit and I've let Rogsai Resolve and Ad Nauseum under strict, the political deals, because I knew that the Rao that was going right after had a guaranteed push. And I know that Rogsai plays interaction to help me. Like there's definitely circumstances where it's different. Like if that's why I wanted to preference it with, if there's another turbo deck that you can kind of abuse. If your deck is, if like your pod comp is all responsible, and then you honestly don't even waste your breath. Like it's just eat the counter spell, because yes, it is unreasonable for them to let you have it. I completely agree. However, if there is another aggressive deck at the table, I think it's 100% at least worth the conversation, because
Yeah.
that the other deck is trying to win the game turn 2 and 3 the same way that you are, and you're giving them something where it's like, hey, I'm letting you control my most powerful spell in the way that I use it, and you're not using your Force of Will and pitching your other blue card so that you can save it for this other deck. To me, again, as a control player, that is extremely enticing. It's just that
Yeah. No.
our deck is built in a way that we yes, our is it really, really good for us? Of course it is, because we're resolving our powerful spell. But also, like, our deck is built in a way where we can still come back because we have so much redundancy in our deck with the dense win conditions.
Yeah, that's kind of why it's like scary for, again, as somebody who's been on the other side, to see any of these spells put on the stack. Because it's like, even if we make a deal, it just feels like the deal is not going to work out for me. Like, what if you find Reb Pyro into like Bergie Relic? You know what I mean? Or Bergie Altar as an example. Like, now I'm kind of like, ugh,
But
this deal didn't work out for me.
if you had the counter spell for the Adnaz or the Necro, you had the counter spell for that too, didn't you?
No, but what I'm saying though is that, like, if you let if you let any of our MDEs resolve, even if specifically Adnaz Necro, because Pure is just a flat number of cards you draw, they can't control that.
Oh,
You
okay. Yeah, I want to be very clear. I don't think PETA was on the list of, bro,
yeah,
just let
yeah,
me
no,
resolve
I'm
it.
just
No big deal.
Yeah.
yeah, no. I'm just saying that, like, with Adnaz and Necro, if you try to make a deal of letting them do whatever amount that you both agree is reasonable, that number can still beat your counterspell and interact with something else. Like, I've done that before with Necro before. Like, I've had my Necro resolve. I've convinced the table to let me resolve my Necro. I was able to play out. I already had like 2 mana out multiple times, and I ended up finding a silence and the pyro or a Reb. you know. And it's like, now not only can I stop them if they go for the win, but I have the protection for my win attempt that I now have because of the Necro. Same thing with Adna. So it's kind of like, I think I kind of inadvertently took us on a tail off of what the actual conversation should be, but I think it's better to have the politic conversation, like Joey's always said. I want to push you, give me a reason not to. I think that's the better way to have the conversation than trying to have a conversation as the spell's resolved and saying, hey, control what it's doing, or tell me XYZ to do.
Oh yeah,
You
no,
know, because
100%. No,
you
yeah,
know,
you're never like jamming it out there for it to eat, because like those spells are really, really scary, and you're not trying to like back talk and take it off the stack. No, like, and that's why I was stating before, like, before any push, I asked somebody give me a reason not to. And that includes like our MDEs. I'm gonna say, give me a reason not to. No one shows me anything. I cast Adnos. Someone then shows
yeah,
Force of Will, and I'm like, hey, let's be friends. let's have a conversation here. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm never running it out there, because those spells are premium and they're extremely scary, and I wouldn't fault anyone for snap countering it anyway without that conversation. That's where like the tad bit's a little bit different.
yeah. I think that's more of like the point of the conversation that we just needed to hash out. Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the next topic that I had on the docket, which was staple cards and cards that, or just cards that are right now, I would say are, look, if you're not running this, you have to give me a really good reasons why not to. Um, I don't know if, let's see, did you, did he post, where did he post the staples? Oh no, I already have it pinned. My bad. Let's go to more discussions, pin messages, resources, Mulligan practice, Dardu staples. Okay, I'm going to share my screen real quick. This is just based on data that was pulled from someone else. 78 cards that pretty
Right.
much have 80% play rate, at least 80% play rate in the deck over the last 6 months, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe he said that in the primer here. Nope, that's he posted in the primer that he made. Let's see here. Da, 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 da. I think we can do. Okay, I do not notice their setup. Never mind. In his primer, he has all the data on it, but here are the cards. I also think I took out Impercure, even though that was in technically the 82%. Here are the cards that are at least 80% play right now, and I think that the 78 cards that are listed right now, okay. First of all, I don't think there's much debate about the lands. These 21 lands are pretty much the staple for any Mardu deck, right? Emergent Zone would be the only one I can sit here and say, holy shit, it's $63 now. Emergent Zone would be the
All right.
only one I
Real
would say.
quick, I put your list. I put the list in the comments, so you can pull it up if you need it.
Oh, you angel. Let's see here. In the comments in here. Okay. This is the one he made?
Yeah, that's the Dardu core
Oh,
list that he had.
perfect. All right. So, and then he has the primer right here. Yes. Okay. Main deck 80%, sideboard 57% is considering. Oh my god. I love this dude. This was such a nice little thing for him to do. I love this. Um this needs to be the actual link on the page, not mine. I will change that later. But okay. So lands, where are we at? Lands 20. Okay, perfect. What is this one? Gemstone Caverns. Okay. Yeah, these 20 lands I would say are pretty much universal. Starting Town, it may be the only one that I would sit here and go, I don't know. Like you could debate that one with me. I'm still gonna run it because we need as many Rainbow lands as possible. I just don't think that a card, like, we're not seeing past turn 3 much anyways. So like Starting Town to me is just, I think it should be there. Cavernous Souls is another one where like you can sit here and debate it, but I think Cavernous Souls into GA is one of the only ways that we can just outright just say no unless you have a silent spell right now. Like, right? Like that is just one of the only ways we can do that. So lands, I don't really think there's any debate on this. As far as the sideboard, this is where 50 to 80%. Uh Phyrexian Tower, Emergent Zone, Exotic Orchard, I think all three are worth it. I think that especially Phyrexian Tower has shown to be pretty darn good in a pinch. I think Emergent Zone is uncuttable right now because it is one of the only ways we can instant speed win. Um, and I am a very firm believer in the meta right now that if you cannot win without putting spells on the stack, or you can't win at instant speed, you're gonna have a really hard time winning in this meta. But that being said, our deck does neither of those things, and we do okay because we're the best sorcery speed deck in the game. So like that's the exception to the rule that science allows. As far as lands go, and then considering I don't think there's any land. Okay, these are just more preference, white or red for lands. For fetches, I don't really care either way. Um, Another one's Windstone Teeth. I just don't think it really matters. It just depends on what you're trying to fetch for. Um, for enchantments, Goblin Bombardment was not in the deck for a long time for a lot of people. I ran it when I ran Temur Dargo, and I ended up putting it back in when we lost Custodian Nightmare. Rest in peace. Which is another card we'll talk about. And Static Prison, Underworld Breach. I mean, Static Prison is just better. Uh, what's it called? Portable Hole. Um, 1 mana, remove anything on the field is really good, and for 3 turns is really good. Static Prison is meant for those stacks pieces that we can't get rid of that are creatures, namely things like Blind Obedience, things like Rule of Law, things like, you know, either source, whatever stacks pieces we're having to worry about. Static Prison is meant to be that removal piece, as is Soul Partition, which was a conversation I had earlier today. Where like Soul Partition is meant to stop wins. No, it's meant to remove a stacks piece. Like that's what it's there for. If you don't like Soul Partition, that's fine. I don't really care one way or another as far as like what removal you want to use. I just think that it's really risky to go into a game with no way to get around problems and have no agency in the game. I just don't think that that's a very smart idea. But again, that's just my opinion. Artifacts. Arcane Signet is the only Signet that I think we have left in this deck that everyone is like pretty much going to be on because it's always going to be there. Felowar Stone being a very close second. If I'm going to run another Signet, Felwar Stone's a good option. If not that, then I'd probably go Rakdos because Rakdos is the most important colors that we have in this deck. As far as pushes go, as far as silences go, obviously white would be the #1 thing there, and I'd probably do the Boros one because red and white would be the next closest things that we don't have rituals for. In black, we have more rituals for those things, including even like in Phyrexian Tower. Instance ad nauseum. I famously was not on ad nauseum for a long time. I think the meta just moved to the point where like we have to be faster, and ad nauseum allows us to be faster. It allows us to push sooner. It allows us to push and do things at instant speed. It's still not my favorite card in the world, but I'm not going to sit here and say it's a bad card. It's just a card that's really good. Joey has mentioned multiple times it's one of his favorite cards. I am just not a huge advocate for a card that says, oh my gosh, I hope this resolves. Oh my gosh, I hope I flip really good. Oh my gosh, I hope I got the right cards. Oh my gosh, I hope they let me resolve all these other things. However, Adnaz has proven, especially recently, to be very good. So I'm not going to sit here and say don't run it. I'm going to sit here and say it is not, to me, a absolute staple card, even though it is in the sense, because I think this deck can win without it. That being said, again, I'll let Joey speak to ad nauseum because it's his favorite card. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean Adnaz, good card. It's one of our only. I consider it like an instant speed win con because end step Adnaz, they don't have counterspell. You draw 30 cards, and again, our deck is so threat dense. We're gonna have a way to win the game. Also, like I think Ad Nauseum is very much reliant on deck construction and play skill. It's one of the harder cards to play just because you have to understand like your fail safe of okay, if I've gone too deep, there's no back, there's no back door. I have to just keep going, even though I know like if I flip this Razaketh, I'm dead. But at the same time, if I take to my turn and I don't have a win line, I know I'm dead anyway because there's a green deck and they have 7 power on board or whatever. So like you just have to know your fail safe, and you have to know like when you have to keep going or when it's okay to chill and stop. And yeah, it's just really, really powerful. Anytime any card that says you can see 30 cards is extremely powerful. in my opinion.
Hot take: seeing more cards is good. All right. Um. So that's on instance. This is kind of where I think that these are not negotiable in my opinion. I literally do not. I like again. Sans ad nauseum. Every single one of these instances in this list, I don't think like if you're not running them, you better give me a really good reason as to why you're not. Um, as far as the instance in the sideboard, where are we at? Sideboard. We got Orb Chant. I think at this point is uncuttable. Um, we need as many silence effects as we possibly can. I know this was a conversation we had earlier, but I think Orb Chant is too good. If Blue Farm's running Orb Chant, there's no reason we can't. Like I just don't think that that's a thing. Um, and Soul Partition, I already made my soapbox on this, where it's like, look, Soul Partition is a removal piece for a problem that you can't get rid of otherwise, and you don't have a ability to go get a static prison. It's at instant speed, which gives it more ability to like you can do it on an end step, and it can also flicker your own things if dire necessary things happen. I did not. I'm sorry. We went past artifacts and we didn't mention the artifacts that are in here. Uh, and then enchantments, necropotence. I'll do necropotence first. Necropotence, I think right now is just too good. Um, seeing more cards is good. I used to be a big fan of not running necropotence. I mean, again, if you look at my primer, like I didn't run necropotence. I didn't run ad nauseum for a while. Even though the first version I ever converted on was on necropotence, ad nauseum, PETA, hoarding broodlord, bulls citadel, it ran every chunky big black June thing spell, but I cut it and then I had someone test my deck with Necropotence in it with the Academy Rector package, and they're like, dude, you need to be on Necropotence. Like you just learn how to run the card. Now, is it as broken as a blue deck? No, it's not. It's just not as broken as a blue deck, and that's c'est la vie. But drawing 7 cards for us in general probably means we win the game. Like next turn. It's very rare that I've had a Necropotence draw me 7 cards and I haven't been able to push for a win. Just in general. Smothering Tithe, I know a lot of people, including Joey, including some others, have been like, Knuckles better than Smothering Tithe. I get that. I understand it. We'll get to that when we go to the creatures. We'll talk about Knuckles more. As far as Smothering Tithe goes, in my opinion, a turn 2 Smothering Tithe generally means I'm going to win the game with multiple pushes in turn 3. So Smothering Tithe to me, especially in a meta where it's like there's 2 Rystics, an Esper, and a Fairy Mastermind out. Smothering Tithe is going to make you so much, like, just so much that I don't think it's going to matter. I think Smothering Tithe right now is still good. I'm not saying this just because it's one of my favorite cards. I'm just saying this because, again, it's one of the most powerful white spells in Magic. You have to give me a better reason than that. Then, like, Knuckles is better. Okay, like, situationally, yeah, but in a vacuum, Smothering Tithe to me is just better. Um, but I've also had the same kind of mentality when it comes to Trouble in Pairs, which no one is on now, including myself. And everyone said, no, the One Ring is better. No. In a vacuum, Trouble in Pairs actually is a lot better, but that's another story another time. Vexing Bobble, I think, is good enough to run at this point. I wasn't a fan of it for a long time, but Vexing Bobble it's one of the only ways that we can say no free counter spells, um, which is vitally important for this deck. Pyre of Heroes is a package that a lot of people are kind of iffy on, including myself. Here's the thing with Pyre of Heroes. I was talking about this earlier with someone. The hardest thing to do right now is win with everyone's interaction on the board. They're not wasting a counterspell on a Mardu devotee. If they are, they either are chock full of interaction or it doesn't matter. Right? Pyre of Heroes says, here's my uncounterable Grand Abolisher. That's what it's there. That's what it's there to do. Can it go get Yawgmoth? Yes. Can it go get Ruthless? Yes. Can it go get Academy Director? Yes. It does all those things. But Pyre of Heroes is there as a second copy of Voice of Victory and Grand Abolisher. And frankly, that's too good. Like, in my opinion, right now, making sure you don't put the spell on the actual stack is more valuable than another slot that Pyro of Heroes takes up. I think it's just fine, especially because we're really already on so many one-drop humans. Tibna is always in the command zone, so Yawgmoth, Academy Rector, Ruthless Technomancer are always going to be available to you when you want it. I just think it's really good. Again, is it an absolute staple? No. That's why it's not in the staples part. I just think it's really good. As far as instance artifacts, yeah. Honestly, I actually thought about this the other day. If we ever get Jewel Lotus back, I still don't think Price Statue goes away. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Joey? Like, I don't think I think Price Statue is like really, really good.
I agree. I think Price Statue is uncuttable. It's so much value. It's 5 mana for Dargo plus another treasure. And like a lot of the time the play pattern is play Dargo, play something else for payoff. And Price Statue just enables that so much. So if you're looking at like play Dargo, play Burnt Offering into payoff, Price Statue is one of the only cards that's gonna let you, you know, one card cast, 5 mana for Dargo, and then when you do that, you get another mana on top of that to go into your payoff. I agree. I completely agree.
Yeah, it's
Good.
uncuttable. I've had multiple turn 2 peers with protection because of Prize Statue.
I'm about to say, I can honestly think right now, this is one of the only ways this deck, well, not one of the only ways, it is one of the most consistent ways this deck can actually do a turn 1 win. You go
Yeah.
land, Soul Ring,
Yep.
Prize Statue, Dargo, Burnt Offering, PETA. Done. Like,
Or
that's not
like
even that crazy.
Adnals or whatever. Like, it
Yeah,
doesn't
I mean,
matter.
yeah, or Add-ons, or any of our MDEs. That's not even that crazy of a. That's not even that crazy of a hand, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like, it's just
Or
not.
like Ancient Tomb into Mox Diamond or City Trade, or into like Mox Opal as an example, or Lotus Petal or some shit.
Oh, dude, the amount of times where I've actually casted Prize Statue into a Mox Opal to then like use the Mox Opal, too good, too good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's too good.
Yeah, I've used it off of like really, really tight Nas lines. Like I've literally like sacked everything to Nas. And then, like I drew like Ancient Tomb, play Ancient Tomb, and then I've been able to like enable my Mox Opal just off a Prize Statue, and that's so massive because again, that's just 5 mana plus your Mox Opal. Like that's another Dargo plus payoff. Like it is so massive.
I think that you make a really good point with like the Dargo plus payoff is so fundamental to this deck that like, everything that we do. That's why the whole Treasure Dork fad started. And again, keep in mind these are not around like as far as like part of the discussion of this deck. y- Not even that long ago. These were not even considered, and now it's like, how could we not be running these? So we'll get to that. Sorceries. The only card in the sorceries list that I'm sitting here, and I'm not going to talk about pure quite yet, is Beseech. That I'm like, I don't know if I really need, but
Yeah.
Beseech casting a Ruthless Technomancer for free kind of slaps. So I get why Beseech is there. I
My
understand it.
argument for Beseech, for me anyway, like the justification that I always told myself for running it was it needs to actually cheat on mana as opposed to a DT. Because it's
Yeah,
triple black and 4. If it's not cheating the mana, then it's not doing anything. Like
yeah,
if the card I want to tutor for is a 2 as a 2 CMC or less, I really don't want to cast unless it's a breach.
or GA. Like I
Or
would agree.
yeah,
Yeah, I would
you
agree.
know,
Which brings us to
so
Lively Dirge. Like literally to your point, Lively Dirge. I used to run Reanimate, and uh, I cut Reanimate for a long time. I cut Reanimate for Lively Dirge because I said, why not just have what are we reanimating in our deck? That's greater than 4. Until recently, nothing. There's literally not a creature in our deck until recently that was more than 4. So why the F am I not running Lively Dirge? Now, yes, is it 3 mana to do it? Yes. Or 4 mana to do it? Yes. Is it 5 mana to put it onto the battlefield? Yes. But having a spell that just says, does this resolve? I'm going to win right now is really, really good, which is why the whole Arena Rector idea I wanted to push for it because Lively Dirge just says, I have 6 mana. I should be winning the game right now. Like, count to 6 and win. Cards that can do that are really good. Now, I have since cut that idea for multiple reasons, but again, just for testing, that's what we're doing now. But Lively Dirge, I think, is versatile. It also is an Entomb. It's Entomb and Reanimate all in one. I think it's really good. It's not in the staples list, but I think this has an argument for being in the staples list, and it's the only sorcery in this list that I would say like should be up here. Peer into the Abyss. Let's talk about that. Peer into the Abyss is look. If you want to do Razaketh, you cut Peer. If you don't want to do Razaketh, you play Peer. And I know that may be, well, what if I don't want to play Adnons? What if I don't want to play Bullis and Citadel? Those are both options, and in my humble opinion, incorrect. I think Peer in Razaketh is the swap off because Peer says I just win the game. Razaketh should also just say I win the game. Whereas Adnaz is faster than Peer, Citadel is easier to cheat in than Peer. The rule I've always said about our payoffs are this: the hardest to resolve is Peer. The 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 payoff that bricks the least is also Peer. Bolas of Citadel is the easiest payoff to put on the battlefield. It is also the most likely to brick. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that you brick a lot with Citadel. I'm just saying every time I've played a land and then played Citadel, I have bricked at some point. That's okay. Some people don't brick on Citadel ever, and they never will have to feel that pain. And that's fine, and I love that for them and their journey, but fuck them. Because it's happened to me too much. Joey, I'm looking at you. So, but I think Citadel is like, again, at this point in the game, uncuttable. Peer to me is cuttable, but you better give me a really good reason to cut it. And that reason right now is Razaketh. So that's a good enough reason for me to cut Peer. If I'm not going to play Razaketh, I'm definitely going to play Peer. And if I'm not playing Peer, I better have, again, a really good reason as to why not. Rite of Flame's a ritual, Gamble's a ritual, Diabolic Intent, Diabolic Tour, Imperial Seal. A lot of people cut Imperial Seal from like Blue Farm and stuff like that. I don't know. I just think it's too good. Creatures. Okay. Bergie. If you're not running Bergie, come on, man. Like, come on.
Get out of here, dude.
Yeah, yeah. There are a few things where I'm like, I'm not going to be mean about people not playing cards. For example, someone mentioned earlier that they're not playing Grand Abolisher. Look, I think that's an incorrect decision, but I'm not going to sit there and make fun of them for it. Bergie, bro, Bergie's too good. Bergie is way too good. Like, Bergie is arguably, in my opinion, one of the spells in the game. And I don't think that like you can convince me to ever. If I can have an excuse to run Bergie, I will run Bergie in a deck. Like even if it doesn't fit totally with the game plan, I think it's too good. Deadpool, as much as I hate Universe Beyond going into Magic, and I hate the idea of running a card that is Deadpool in the deck, the card is too good. It is too good, too consistent, too versatile. It's too good. And frankly, I mean, if they come out with a version that's not Universe Beyond, but it's like a random Magic character, like if Gideon came in as Deadpool, whatever, I'd run that. But like Deadpool is too good. It's a combo piece. It's one of the only ways that we can go. We're just gonna win, and there's nothing you can do about it. Too good. Esper Sentinel, self-explanatory. Grand Abolisher, best silence in the game. Again, I would sit here, and if you're gonna tell me that you're gonna run Ranger Captain, but you're not gonna run Grand Abolisher, I just don't get it. They're both two white pips. I don't get it. Freebooter, Impulsive Pilfer. I'm gonna add Shambling Gas into this because I think that after all the testing I've done, and Joey, you can jump in on this if you'd like. After all the testing I've done, I think the Treasure Dorks are just too good. They're just too good for this deck.
Yeah, I agree. Again, it's the Dargo into payoff play pattern that's really what this deck thrives on. and those treasure dorks are single-handedly enable that play pattern. They're just too good.
I think that these are what replace signets in this deck because it's just better. Like,
But they also do something else that's really important and very, I think, understated at times. Is there also one drops for Timna
They
that
draw
nobody
cards,
wants
yeah.
to block.
yeah, the play
Like
pattern, of turn 1 greedy freebooter, turn 2 Timna, or turn
whatever.
turn 1 2 of these things. Like, what if they block? What if they do? Like, then you get a treasure and you can start pushing, and they know that.
They
Like,
just make your game plan so easy to enact, whatever your game plan is, whether it's Timna, Fast Dargo, even into like Adnos as an example. Because calling the you could literally have a 4-card hand of land, freebooter, calling the week Adnos. That's a win on turn 2.
Yep.
yeah, I will actually say hitting that turn 2 on someone is just like that is a damn good feeling. Just sit there and be like, yeah, I mulled the 4.
I've done it.
Did not matter.
Yeah, I remember the day when it clicked that like because I know a lot of us we were like fighting between Sticky Fingers, Infernal Plunge, and like all of the other like one drop, make random mana kind of shits. The day that I realized that you can just Infernal Plunge, and if you're playing 3 Treasure
Dude.
Dorks, it's always just ad nauseum. Oh my god! It was literally a game changer, and I already love ad nauseum, and now that I
Why
know
is
that
streaming?
there's another way to
What?
How do you turn
enable
this
it
shit off?
too, it's insane.
I don't know. Somebody on Tim Nadargo.
Sweet.
Um,
My
so
thing is this. I want to question the validity of this class because why is Mardu Devotee down on the sideboard? Ain't no way less than 80% of people are playing that card. Ain't no way.
okay,
That
so
card is also crap.
It
okay,
took me 4 months to find a foil of that fucker.
bro, what do you mean? It's the greatest foil. I remember when I came in the mail. I was like, 21 cents, baby. Best 21 cents I ever spent. Right
It's
there.
like it took a week for TCG to ship it to me.
Actually, I think before Joey's win and Sylvie's win, I'm 99% sure that was a 9-cent foil. Like
What is it now? 12? Oh, no,
21.
it's 21.
Hell yeah, bro. That's stonks.
I opened
Dude,
one
but
in a
now
Dardu Dragonstorm box and like a foil one, and I just had it sit there for a while, not knowing what to do with it, and I picked it up to Dargo.
Oh yeah,
Now it
dude.
has a space.
My
Let's
friend
talk
sent me a picture. Because he heard that I was looking for one like months and months and months ago, and he finally went through his collection from cons, and he's like, "I have 6 of them foil."
Yeah, I mean, like it's a common. Like you think that. And here's the thing. First of all, I want to credit Kyle. He was the first one to put this on the map, and then we're all like, "Oh, he's just a creature deck, Tim the Dargo person." And then I think I looked at it. I was like, "Wait a minute, Scry 2 is kind of gas." All right.
A human papaya is kind of gassed.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing about this. The only thing about this card where I'm like, roll my eye at is because it says activate only once each turn. Like, you cowards at Wizards, you're a coward. Like, it's Mardu Devotee. Who the hell is abusing this? But
you
I
know what's
digress.
also insane? The
Hmm.
fact that it's a 1/2. Like
Yes.
Yeah,
what the actual fuck?
It's a
Everything's an
1/2.
X2 nowadays. Everything.
yeah. The amount of times where I've had like, I'm gonna swing, and they're like, "Well, I'll block with my dork." I'm like, "Block with your dork. I don't care." They're like, "Wait, it's a 1/2." Correct. It is a 1/2. Correct. Now, here's the thing. I agree with you, Thorpe. I think that it should be up here. Um, but the reason why it's down here is I think people just haven't caught on to the stuff about Mardu Devotee. Here's my soapbox about Mardu Devotee. Cavern of Souls just became a much better card because of Mardu Devotee. Cavern of Souls Devotee means you have a rainbow land at all times. Okay? That's insane. Um, Dark Ritual now actually translates to be Mayhem Devil, if you're still running Mayhem Devil. It translates to be Goblin Engineer plus a Greedy Freebooter. It translates to be a
Timna.
any 2-drop.
Infernal Plunge turns into Chance for Glory.
Yep.
Infernal Plunge turns into a Jolly Balloon Man. Inferno,
Hey,
Dark Ritual turns into a professional facebreaker. Dark Ritual turns into
Manavault,
Manifold turns into a
Bergie.
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 Yeah.
One of my favorite play patterns is turn 1 Devotee, Scry 2, fix my next turn, turn 2 Ancient Tomb, play Timna.
Yep.
Like that.
Yep.
I've done
I
that
love
so
it.
many times.
Oh, dude, it's I think the big thing that we're like, especially what you just like, the one little thing that you said there was like, fix my next turn. Seeing 2 more cards on your first turn, seeing effectively 10 cards on turn 1, what deck is doing that? Like, legitimately, what deck right now is sitting there on turn 1 for 1 mana, draw for turn, 7 cards for your mulligan, and then 2 more cards? What card is what deck out there is seeing 10 cards on turn 1? Not many, right? Like, I just can't think of anything that does that consistently.
It
Mardu
also
Devotee.
it just
Go ahead. Go ahead.
turns. I was just saying it just turns all of our soul lands into colored lands, and colored pips, as everybody knows, is the literal like crux of this deck. And just a card that says, "Yeah, go ahead, bro. You can fix your mana for this turn or next turn or whenever you need it." Like, I don't understand why anybody would want it. Like, it's literally a treasure dork. Is literally how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a it's a card that helps so many other game plans, and it just it look. Am I sit here saying that this card should be a $20 card? No, but don't undervalue the fact that it's a 1/2. Don't undervalue the fact that you can filter a color. Don't underestimate the fact that you can scry too. There have been many games. I go Ranger Captain, Mardu Devotee instead of Esper Sentinel. Like, because I know for a fact if I see, or I know for a fact I can push, especially if my next 2 draw, or at least the next draw I get is not just a land, or not just like a random 7 mana spell. Filtering the top of your library on turn 2 or turn 1 is insanely good. Now, that's for the 1 drops. Ragavan, the later the game goes, the worse it is, but it's still really good. 2 drops, if you're not on Lotho, come on, be better. Voice of Victory. Magda is a debate that Sylvia's had. I think Magda's too good. Um, I don't know. I just think Magda's too good. I think the synergies between Magda and Totaro alone make it like, oh, well, if I wasn't playing Magda before, I'm definitely doing it now. Because Totaro is also a passive that is just too good.
Yeah, like I have some reasons in like the back of my mind for wanting to cut Magda, but none of them are better than the reasons to play Magda.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah, that's definitely my point. Like, if you're gonna give me a reason to cut Magda, it better be a good one. Um, another 1 drop that I actually forgot to mention in here that's not on either of the lists, I don't think, is, oh, there it is, Goblin Welder. I mean, let's be real. I bought the fancy version of it. I love this card. I've been running this card for a long time. I took it out for a while, and every time I play this card, I just it overperforms all the time. I can't tell you how many times it's been a removal piece, or it's been like cheating in my bolus, or it's been, you know, value with prize statue. If you haven't done value with prize statue with freaking Goblin Welder, oh my god, it's so good. I just think Goblin Welder at this point, if you're gonna run Goblin Engineer, which again is on the sideboard, but if you're not running Goblin Engineer, I actually have questions because I think this should also be in the Stables card. I think Goblin Engineer is too good. It gets win cons. It's cheating things in. It's an entomb. I don't know. I just think Goblin Engineer is too good. But if you're gonna run Goblin Engineer and you're running Bolus of Citadel, Goblin Welder is pretty good. That's what I'm saying. Joey, you were a big advocate. Anything to add to that?
Yeah, it's funny because like I remember when I first picked up the list, and as anyone that first picks up a deck, they have their own opinions and they start cutting cards that they don't really see the vision for. Welder and Engineer were part of that initial cut, and then as I got more and more into the list, I realized like, okay, why am I not playing these really cheap creatures that can enable a cheat in for Bolas' Citadel. They can sack the Dargo, and they have like different counterplays with stuff like the value price statue, returning the Relic of Legends or whatever it may be. And I just realized that like that upside is so good, and the floor it being just it's a cheap creature that sacks to Dargo and can potentially set something else up is too good in my opinion. And that's why I put them back. And I think that the Welder package and then the Bull Citadel package is actually the initial inspiration for where I've taken my list and like why I added the Entomb and then eventually added Reanimate and then eventually all of that came to Razaketh.
Have
You
you
know,
guys talked about Stitcher's supplier yet?
we have not. That was going to be the next card
Okay.
that we talk about. But no, that's good. I'm glad you brought it up. But to cap off Goblin Welder, I agree. If you haven't tried testing it, I promise you will not be disappointed with how it overperforms. I There was a finals match, the plat event that I topped after Land Go. I dropped Goblin Welder turn one, then Lotus Petal, and then they're all like, "Oh no, he has Entomb." I'm like, "I don't run Entomb in the deck." They're like, "Oh okay." I'm like, "Cool." Anyways, Goblin Engineer, and they're like, "Oh shit." I'm like, "Yeah, that was it." So, Goblin Welder, good card, highly recommend. Stitcher Supplier. Talking about this, I think that this is as borderline of a staple as you can get because of how good it can enable breach lines and how much I think that Stitcher Supplier, a lot of people like it. Seeing 6 cards for a sack and an ATB is pretty good. My only concern is that there are times where I have milled cards. I'm like, well, that just took away the 2 lands that if I drew that land, I could have pushed. And then that's not as big of a deal. The bigger thing to me, and the one thing that really made me solidify is like I'm not running this card, is I had the Breach, Culling the Weak, Stitcher's Line, turn 2 twice in a tournament. It did not matter. Where there wasn't an opening for it, it was too fragile of a line, something where it was gonna get stopped. And I knew it. And if it's not good enough to do turn 2, then maybe it's too fragile of a line to run. Um, I don't know. That's just my opinions on it. I'm not the end all be all of this deck. I think that this is why this deck is so great, is that it's a collaborative flex of 20 cards. But Stitcher Supplier to me is very. I would rather having a Shambling on turn one than a Stitcher Supplier on turn one.
What would you rather run, this or Grinding Station? Out of curiosity.
This.
Okay. Because I think the point that I'm trying to get to is I think that a lot of the choices people end up making for their card choices really focuses on the gameplay that they want to enable and enact. And Stitcher Supplier, I think, is very good, obviously, for those that really, 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 really want to dig into Breach as much as they can. And if you're not digging into Breach, you kind of don't really need the reason because we are already a very good Breach deck.
Yeah, I think that was going to be my next statement. Is that like I really want to enable Breach. There may not be a better Breach deck, and I mean that wholeheartedly because we have tools in this deck that make Breach so much easier. Like, well, blue decks have Brain Freeze, Kellen. That's a ridiculous statement to say that this is a better Breach deck. Yeah? Well, I can have 1 card in my graveyard casting Dargo, putting 5 cards in my graveyard to then enable my Breach. Can blue
Yeah.
do that? No, it cannot. Okay, moving on. Like and I cannot tell you how many times I've resolved a Breach on the board because they said, "How many cards are in your graveyard?" 2. They're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, breach resolves. Cool. Anyways, sack 4 cards to Dargo. Oh shit. Yeah. Oh shit. Like it's over. So like here's the thing. If we do that, like right, if we put Stitcher Supplier and you want to lean into that breach line even more, I totally understand that and I totally think that's a valid thing to do. It's just not what I want to do. There's another one drop that I honestly would debate if we're gonna talk about other like combo enablers. But Stitcher Supplier to me is as borderline of a staple card of like This is pretty damn close, but I just don't think it's a staple.
So if you don't mind, I want to chime in here because I'm very much a big fan of Citrus Supplier, and I've been on it for quite a bit. But basically, the way I see it is like, yeah, it's definitely a breach card, but also it goes into the plans that we're already trying to enact without breach. So it's a 1-drop for Timna that generally can get in, in the early turns. It's fodder for Dargo. Uh, and then your ceiling is obviously going into a breach line. But like it's important to understand that whenever you're trying to convert those really, really tight breach lines, something that's like, you know, breach, LED, crack LED, DT, and like you have no other cards in your graveyard to go find another thing. The 3 black that you've gained off of the LED lets you go DT into Stitcher Supplier. You can play Stitcher Supplier, and then you can sack it to Dargo, and then you can do LED DT again to go into a different line or find Coaling or whatever it is. Like the play patterns that it enables with Breach are way too powerful in my opinion, as well as it's already working with the other game plans that you're trying to enact within the deck.
Okay. I I agree that Stitcher Supplier definitely does enable tighter breach lines. I also want to be clear, breach is my 4th win con. It's my it,
100%.
yeah, it is not the win con I go for. Like almost ever. And it's like, well, when do you go for breach? When I have Citadel out. Oh, like so not really breach? Yeah, not really breach. Like
Yeah, I don't think I've gone for breach aggressively since like I cut Lurs. Like I think when I had Lurs in my deck was the last time I really, really, really focused on breach.
yeah, that is actually another point right there. If I'm gonna really focus on breach and I'm really gonna focus on breach, I am gonna run things like Loris. I'm gonna run things like that. Like, yeah, you countered my breach. Cool. Anyway, so cast it again. Like, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, like Lurs also makes all of your breach lines so much tighter also because you get 1 free cast of your LED. As an
I
example.
don't think it's necessarily like leaning into breach. I think it's just leaving the option open. That's the way I
Yeah.
look at it. Like I don't think like I'm never like gunning for breach either. I feel like I would say my crutch is probably ad nauseum. I probably gun for ad nauseum more than anything else in the deck, just because I think it's the best card in the deck. But like having the option open of like, okay, if my hand says early breach, I know that Stitcher Supplier is in my deck, so I know that I can actually convert this. Versus like my hand says early breach and I don't have those cards that enable the plan, so I'm like, shit, like this potential turn 2, turn 3 breach line is actually a turn 4 because I don't have this card in my deck, right? So like I want to be able to enable those early lines, and I feel like the downside of playing a card like Citrus Supplier isn't really there because when it comes down to it, it's still a 1-drop for Timna and it's still fodder for Dargo.
I do
I think
also think it makes cards like Demonic Council better. Because
I
it just helps
oh,
feed into
I
what
also
like
think I think Divine Council is not runnable, personally.
I'm not a big fan of Demonic Council either, but
Yeah.
I've had very
it
good
does
I
make other
sort of
cards better. Like if you're leaning into the reanimate shit, or even like you can go like turn 1 welder. Like I've actually done this before where I went like turn 1 welder pedal or whatever, and I go turn 2, like imp seal stitchers weld back a bowl of citadel. Like I've used it to like dig for stuff with like welder, engineer, reanimate, now animate dead, looking for altar of the wretched, Savine's
I
rack. Like there's so much different graveyard package synergies that we have where I feel like milling 3 random cards is just upside.
I hate how clean that line was. That's not even that crazy of a hand. Like
Yeah.
legitimately, that's not. It's like MCO, okay. Stitchers, well, oh my god, that's just okay. Well, honestly, this is why I like talking to people. Here's the thing. Right now, I'm on Mexing Bomb. If I'm going to run Stitcher Supplier, I might cut Mexing Bomb 1 for 1, or Hope and Gearper, which is the next 1-drop I want to talk about. Um, I think Stitcher Supplier. Uh, yeah, I think that a lot of these cards that we're talking about, though, Ad Nas, Stitcher Supplier, things like that. Higher skill level cards where if you don't have a lot of experience on the deck, it can be really hard to figure these lines out. This is not a deck that's going to be easy to just pick up and just, oh, I'm winning, haha. Like, I don't know. It wasn't for me. Um, it may be for other people. I don't know. But Hope and Europer. I don't know how I feel about this card right now. On one hand, flying attacker, one drop, silence effect, turns on Mox Opal earlier. I have definitely had turns where I go Ancient Den, Hope and Girper, Mox Opal, Mardu Devotee, pass, which is like insane. However, am I evaluating cards based on peaks, or am I evaluating cards based on their lows, or am I evaluating it based on their average? And to me, the average of Hope is it's a silence I can do if I guess the right person, which is kind of like, ew, not my favorite. However, a one drop silence effect that you can politic with is something that needs to be noted. It can also work with Goblin Engineer, it works with Goblin Welder. I think that there's a lot of things, even I'm talking right now, Hoping Europer is something that may not be a staple in the list that we're looking at, but it is absolutely something that you should consider.
Taps the
Does
relic.
anyone have. Say again?
Taps the relic.
Yep.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
it taps the relic too. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
so I wanted to add like that's funny enough. Like I feel like the time that I'm using Hope of Gearper the most is like after I've resolved an MDE and I'm like, you separate all your shit. You're looking for your line and you're like, okay, cool. I can get to like let's say I have like a relic plus a bunch of colorless mana from these rocks, and then you're like, oh, cool. I have this Hope of Gearper that actually just converts a colorless into a colored mana, and that's just what I need to cast Burnt Offering so that I can get more colored mana.
It's a second Mardu devotee.
Exactly.
Don't at me.
Like yes, like I completely agree with everything else of what you said, but I think like it tapping to relic is huge. Is huge. That and it just being a flying Timna attacker. Like those two things for me are the reason why I play the card. A lot of the time I don't even sack it for the silence. I just want a flying Timna attacker and something that taps to relic so I can get mana.
Yeah, I think that's good enough. I think that's very valid. Um, Last one is DRC. I think DRC has just been passed up by other things. It doesn't do enough at this time. I know, even though we're big fans of Citadel, I like when DRC does its thing, but the floor of DRC is it's a 1-1. End of list. That's a pretty low floor. Um, I'm not a huge fan of that being how low the floor is, although Dragon's Rage Channeler is very good. I think it's runnable. I'm just not going to run it right now. I just don't think there's any reason to when we have other things that fill the slot better.
Yeah, I think it's a card that you add if you want to enable things like Flare.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, if you're looking to enable Pyre of Heroes, I feel like I'm more inclined to
too.
play DRC. But outside of Pyre of Heroes, like honestly, it's not even that great of Bowls of Citadel. I've found like it's fine. Like I'm not saying like I'm gonna be upset if I see a DRC, but like I've
It's
I've
not bad.
like yeah,
It's not,
I've
it's not
definitely
bad.
whipped on a bolus with the DRC out before. Like it just
Right.
happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, wait. Are you admitting now that you whipped on a Citadel?
Oh yeah, no, hey, I've never stated I've never whipped on Citadel. I'm just saying if I turn, listen, if I turn to Citadel, that's still turn to Citadel, and if they don't deal with it on my turn 3, I don't understand, or I don't see a possible way of me losing that game unless the variants are just completely out of my favor.
So it's actually funny that you say that. The in pool priority, I think I won with Citadel 3 or 4 out of 6 games. Like,
It's a good card.
yeah, it did it, and one of the games was actually turn 2 Citadel, brick on Citadel, or uh, cast Orange Chant off of Citadel, misdirection back to me. Cool.
Yep.
Gets back around to my turn. Still win the game. Like,
Still have Citadel.
yeah, still have Citadel. It's still a problem. So like, do the thing. Um, yeah, I
You
think that
gotta You got to make infinite treasures, and then like after you do a ruthless line, you have to keep welding back your citadel and kill people with citadel. That's like the peak right there.
Dude, that's the flex.
I did that in Gitrog.
But I have ring protection. How do you win? Oh, how do I win? He asks.
Wait for this, but
I sacrifice treasures to Citadel. Recast Citadel. I love that card. It's done very well. 2 drops. I've already mentioned Goblin Engineer. I think it's a staple. I don't know why it's not in staples. Whoever's not on Engineer, please speak up or forever hold your peace.
I'm not on it.
Put more-
I go back and
God
forth on it right now.
damn it! Damn it!
dude, tell me why. Tell me
Yeah.
why.
So the reason why I'm not on it is because I haven't been on Citadel like for almost a year now, and I value doing other things than like going that deep into the graveyard stuff. But the reason why I waver going back on it all the time is because it still hits all of my important combo artifacts. Like it still has a lot of value. My issue is playing it if I don't play it turn 1, it's a turn 3 activation. Is that fast enough to win the game? You know, and in order to win on the turn that I cast it, I need to play Claim the Firstborn. I don't think Claim the Firstborn is that good. You know, so for me, it's like in order to really make it as good as it is for like other decks, I need to play other not bad cards, but cards that I don't have value in my list for.
Hold up. Quick question.
Yeah, Claim's not there.
Claim's not in any of this.
Yep.
It doesn't even make the list.
Yep.
Is it like part of the? It's kind of wild. I mean, I feel like
It's less than 30% play. That's
yeah,
crazy.
I feel like only like me and Mike were playing Claim. I don't think anyone else was. Unless I'm
I was
wrong.
on
I
it
don't
for a
know.
while.
No, there's not a whole lot of
when
people on it.
Well,
but
say again.
no, there's not a lot of people on it. Like the only time I was really on it was when I was still on Citadel, and Citadel just either whiffed on me too much, or I had the goblins in my hand with no way to enable them, and it's just like it felt like I needed way too many things to align to make a cheap, fast, uncounterable Citadel work, and it just felt like it ruined my mulligans. That was the reason why I really cut it.
I'm not gonna lie to you. Okay, my hot take that I'm not gonna expand on in any way, shape, or form is Bolt Duplication is better than Claim the Firstborn. All right, moving on. So,
Oh man.
hey, I will elaborate no further. Moving on. As far as 2 drops, hold on, Thor. You said you're also not on Goblin
Not on it.
Engineer.
I
I'm
think
listening.
it's too. I think it's too telegraphed. I'm also not on Claim, so again, it's literally I play it. I have to put something in my yard and pass the turn. I don't want to telegraph what I'm trying to do on my following turn as much as possible. So I mean, I know there's value in putting things in the yard and bringing them back, but again, it's just too telegraphed. And again, I'm very heavy on the Tim to plan. It's not a good Tim to attacker. And if I'm tagging with it, I'm not activating with it. So again, like it's just like it's counterproductive to what I'm trying to do with the list.
It feels like it's one of those cards where it needs 8/10 of the stars to line up for it to really
Correct.
do its
Yes.
work, and like
I'm also not on
otherwise,
Citadel too. That's another big one. I'm not on Citadel.
so it just feels like it needs a little bit too much to really get the value when I could be playing something like Wheel of Fortune. You know, where I could be playing.
I will not entertain this discussion of Wheel of Fortune.
But also too, like my 2-drop slots, I value the 2-for-1 bodies more than I do something like that. Like that's just
I think that's a
play style.
Well, I think you even mentioned it though. You're not on Citadel, so yeah.
Right.
If you're not on Citadel, the combo potential of Engineer gets cut in half at that point, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so, like I think that's a very good thing to mention right there, though. Is that like, look, if I cut Citadel, what am I grabbing with Engineer? Relic, Altar, Wishclaw, end of list, and like Relic is okay. It's just a mana. It's just a rock at that point. Alter the Wretch is hella telegraphed, right? And I'd
Mhm.
rather have a Citadel to just reanimate anyways. And Wish Claw's just another tutor, so I'm tutoring for a tutor, which
Exactly.
isn't the
Yeah.
greatest. So
You can also, I mean, you can also set LED though, which is something I do a lot. Is I'll like welder LED, and then, like even if I'm not setting up a breach line, but I'm just like looking to cast a welder to cast a welder and like and progress my board state. I'll just put an LED in my graveyard and without me even having access to breach, just in case that comes up later in the game. Like I'll just set outs up so that I can pivot if needed to.
Yeah,
Why?
I mean, I've definitely put Altar of the Wretched in my graveyard without
Oh,
the things to like cast Dargo and get it back or activate Engineer, just so that like I kind of thin my deck a little bit and have that line. But that doesn't feel like it's really enough to warrant.
Yeah, it doesn't
a
feel
slot.
enough.
It's one of those cards where if you build around it with like 2 to 3 other cards, not including Citadel, it automatically does become a much better card. But you need multiple cards to make it good.
I will
Dargo
say,
Walter into another Dargo Walter is insane though.
Oh yeah, I've done that before. But it's just like that requires you to have artifacts after you sack to Dargo to do that. That requires you to, like at that point you're looking at having 6 cards.
I will say though, turn 1 or 2 engineer into turn 2 or 3 statue into engineer
Whatever.
statue away is really freaking good. Like, and that's not that crazy of a line. And that's the turn 3. Like even turn 4, like statue on the field. So engineer, put relic into the grave, statue, use the treasure from the statue to ban the statue to get the relic of legends to then sack the treasure to then Dargo away your engineer into a relic into tapping it for a burn. Like it's just
I will also say
I've done a turn 2 line just like that before, where I've had like turn 1 engineer into relic and then mana, plus weld or plus engineer back relic, play goblin bombardment, play Dargo, win game. Like I've had turn 2 lines just like that were solely enabled by goblin engineer.
I
that's
have
probably
had a sick line before with Engineer where I had Walter. I casted Walter, sacked Dargo. I had Timna in play, and I had drawn like a Lotus Petal, and I played the Lotus Petal, and I still had a red floating. Casted Dargo, and then I've sacked the altar, targeting some random BS, and then I deflecting swatted the Engineer to my altar. I've done stuff like that before, which is really fucking cool. But it's just like, to me, the highs of Engineer are extremely high, but the ceiling is like 6 feet under. I mean, the floor is like 6 feet under.
Oh, I can't. I'll be honest with you, dude. I cannot understand how you think that the engineer at the floor is 6 feet under when it's literally an entomb in a body. Like
Because
Yeah.
the floor is
the entomb effect, you need to be able to follow the entomb effect up with
then your
multiple
argument.
other cards.
You
Then
don't
your
yet win
argument.
the game, but like again, if you just set something there, it's fine. You can set Walter there without actually a way to have Walter back, and it's just fine because you have
Yeah,
access
no,
to
no,
Walter
no, no.
now.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm not. For me, it's more of just I don't like having a 2-drop spell, like what Thor said, where one, it telegraphs what you're doing, but it also like if I can't activate it now, I'm not really adding to the board. I'm not progressing my board state to win right now. And if it gets blown up or bounced before it gets to my turn, it did absolutely nothing, you know?
I will
And
say though, like that logic to me says also entomb is dirt bad. If you're saying that
no,
engineer,
Entomb is much better because Entomb gets any card. Engineer specifically only gets artifacts.
but the logic of it entombs and doesn't get it, and I need other things to set up is also entomb.
That's not necessarily true though. You can Entomb for Burnt Offering and Sacrifice with Breach Out. You can Entomb for a
Hey,
card for.
notice how you just had to say another card. So your
That's
argument
fine,
was
but yeah,
these other cards.
the cards that Engineer is only good with is much more limited in scope than the cards that Entomb is good with.
I see it again. With the combos we have, I disagree, just in general. But that's okay.
You can do
I'd
something
rather
with the card that you get off of Entomb right away.
you
No,
can.
you can't.
What do you mean? Yes, you can. You absolutely
Not
can. But
not
Entomb
without
by itself,
another card.
Yeah,
by itself does not have the timing restriction that Engineer does.
correct. That there
Yeah,
In
is
order for Engineer to
to
avoid the timing restriction, you specifically need a second card.
yeah, but
Entomb,
Entomb also doesn't have a body staple to it and a way to actually
but the body's
access the
borderline
card
developed.
that you're trying to put into the graveyard.
But
Like
the
Welder is
what does the
everything
body do
packaged
for?
into one.
But what does the body do for us?
sack to Dargo.
Zax to Dargo.
Okay, and then you're still. So then you're. What are you using it to reanimate? Then it reanimates a 3-drop. So in order to
What are you,
get
what are you using to reanimate the card you entombed?
reanimate, breach, Technomancer.
Great. So my answer to you is also breach, and reanimate, or whatever. Like
Sure.
that's also a thing. So my point is like, if
Oh
you don't
no,
want to run it,
Engineer doesn't
that's
work with those cards though. Engineer only works with artifacts. The only card I have those that it works with is breach. It doesn't work with
Yeah,
reanimate. It doesn't work
it's
with lively dirge. It doesn't work with animate dead. It doesn't work with Technomancer.
all right. Your initial argument was that Engineer has to have another card to work with it, and it's not good enough for that reason. And your whole argument for Entomb is that it works with other cards.
Yes,
You
because
can't
let me
state that
refine.
card is
Engineer uses
bad because it works with other cards. Is it has to have other cards to work, and then speak for another card and say it's good
Engineer
because it
needs
has other
specifically
cards to work with. That
Engineer
doesn't make
needs
any sense.
specifically 2 cards that either give it haste or have already been in play for you to get the full value the turn you cast it.
You
Whereas
don't
Entomb
you don't need it.
but Entomb is also instant speed. You can Entomb on end step. The
correct.
flexibility of Entomb is miles
Okay,
above Engineer.
I'm just gonna end this thing here. If you don't like Goblin Engineer, there is
Yeah,
nothing
yeah,
wrong
no,
with
no, no. I'm
Goblin
just
Engineer.
explaining my thought
I
process.
right. I'm going to refute the point of the floor for Goblin Engineer is 6 feet below the ground. I just don't think that that's accurate. I don't think that that's true, and that's fine. But I'm not going to sit here and say, well, if you're not running Goblin Engineer, you suck. I am not
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
that at
yeah,
all.
yeah. No, no,
What
of
I am
course,
saying is,
of
though,
course.
let's evaluate things realistically and say, like, I would also. That's another thing. Like, going back to like Mardu Devotee, right? Like the floor of Mardu Devotee is seeing 3 cards or seeing 2 cards. That is literally the floor of Mardu Devotee, which a lot of people would say, well, that's still not great. Maybe, but I think that the floor for Engineer is also almost that level. So like,
That I disagree with. I think Mardu Devotee does way more of a flexible card than Engineer.
I, okay, then
You know,
then that
that's my
is
main thing.
sure. Then if you don't like Goblin Engineer, once again, that's
Yeah.
fine. Um, The other 2 drops, I think Tatar is too good. I think Simeon Spirit Guy is just a land in general. I don't think that there's any argument for that. Voice is I don't think anyone's not on voice. I'd be shocked to see if you're not on voice. Grand Abolisher, again, if you're not a Grand Abolisher, I need a really good reason. I just don't think that there's a good reason. If you're not, that's totally fine, and I think that's viable for you, and that's your play pattern. But if you're running Ranger Captain, there's just no reason not to run Grand Abolisher, in my opinion. It's the strongest silence effect in the game. If you're on the Pyre package, then it's like there's really no reason not to run a Grand Abolisher. But again, not everyone's on it, and that's totally fine. Um, Orcish Bowmaster to me is a card that if we didn't have to run it, I'd be happy. But much like what Thor said, it's a 2 bodies for 2 mana, which does extra things as well. It's also partially removal. It's part of a combo. It's really good. It's, in my opinion, at this point in the game, uncuttable. I just still hate the card. It doesn't. It was designed to make sure that people don't overdraw things. It doesn't do that at all. It doesn't do anything that it's intended to do. Much like how Draneth was meant to not have companion do a thing, and it doesn't do at all what it's meant to do. I think Draneth is cope. I think Orcish, if I could cut it, I would. It's just too good to cut. It just can't. You can't. Um, as far as other 2 drops go, we talked about Goblin Engineer, which leaves us to 3 drops. 3 drops. Delny, my beloved, is just not fast enough right now. I again, I have a foil signed. I want to run this card. I want to. I want to. I built Krark Timna strictly because of this card. I love this card. I built Malcolm Bruce because of this card. I love this card. However, I just don't think it's fast enough at this point in the game. And I know it's a great value engine. I know it's good. I just literally talking about how like these cards need other cards. Delny requires other cards to be good. Otherwise, it is a 3-drop 2/2 vanilla creature, and that's not gonna cut it, in my opinion. Um, I think
I don't
that
know if I would necessarily agree with that statement.
okay. I'm happy to hear. Convince me otherwise, because again, I told you I love the card. I do.
So,
Convince me right now that by itself it's worth it.
do we evaluate cards based on having Dargo and Timna in the command zone?
I think a lot of these cards you have to
So why are we not applying that same value to Delny with Timna in the
because
command
they'll
zone?
because those cards don't cost 3.
I don't know if I would agree with that, but I think
Devotees 1. The treasure dorks are 1.
I don't think the manu value is really relevant with that assessment. I
I
think
think it's game plan oriented.
yeah, and
I mean,
Like if
okay,
what
go
sorry,
ahead.
I don't want to cut you off. I just want to put a little tidbit in there. I think like Delny is perfectly fine for people that are wanting to go slower and play a more mid range game. Like if your idea of optimal Tim Dargo is I want to play creatures, control board states with cards like Mayhem Devil, and I want to utilize Timna to draw cards, grind out, and then play Dargo when I'm and eventually going to push my win. Like if that is your idea and how you want to enact your game plan, Delny is great for that. But I feel like if you're trying to lean a little bit more turbo, um, Delny doesn't enact or it doesn't support a turbo game plan. So for a lot of us, it just doesn't meet the requirement to stay within the deck.
yeah, no, I would agree that you don't put Delny in a turbo deck. Yeah, I'm
I
not saying
think the issue with Delny is it doesn't immediately explode with its value for 3 mana. But if you untap with it, the doubling of almost everything is just so explosive, and it's very hard not to win a game if you untap with Delny in one way or another. You know,
I
I think
I
that's
think
kind of
that
like
okay. So here's the thing. Like I agree again. I think that Downey, and very much what Joey just said. If you're on the, I'm going to pick apart this board state and plow my way through it with brute force, right? Downey is absolutely insane. Downey will sit there and go, okay, I know I'm going to be seeing 4 pieces of interaction. How about Knuckles and PFB both swing, create me 9 treasures, get fucked? Like, that's what that
draw
does.
you 4 cards, and
Yeah,
then you
draw.
have access to 9 other cards.
uh, More likely draw 6, right? Because you're getting
Well,
in
yeah,
Timna, and then you're getting Knuckles, and then you're getting in PFB. More than likely, 9 mana and 6 cards should win almost anybody, almost any game, especially with this deck. However, how much mana did I just have to mention to do that? 3 for Delny, 3 for Timna, 3 for
yeah,
PFB, 4 for Knuckles. That's 13 mana.
it's more than the
Like
Balloon Man combo.
that exactly. And I've
I
already mentioned
I
like
think what
I
to
go ahead, go ahead.
just to kind of so we're going back to the point of reevaluating the card. What I was trying to get at is you said the floor value it's a 2/2 vanilla creature, and I don't necessarily agree with that because I always value X card not necessarily by itself, but what does it do with my commanders? And Delny, if I cast it, say turn 1, turn 2, and I immediately follow up with a Timna, yes, I'm untapping with it. We've already gone up with it. My point is, I have access to a card that I will automatically get double the value out of that card immediately, is what I'm trying to get at.
I
Yeah,
think
Delny's the epitome of the whole it's a 10 not attacker argument.
yeah, but that's one of the worst arguments we could have for any of these cards,
I
right?
wouldn't say
Of
it's
course,
the
but it also makes
worst,
that argument the strongest. It
but
also makes
yeah.
that argument the
Oh no
strongest.
no no! It's the weakest argument because that can justify almost any creature because it's a Timna attacker,
But
right?
I
But
think
I
I think realistically to say it's a vanilla 2/2, I don't think is correct. Just simply because we already have access to something in the command zone that will already see double that value immediately.
That's fair. That's fair. I can concede that saying a vanilla 2/2 is because we have access to Timna at any time is fine. I still think for 3 mana, if you're not on the grind mid-range game plan, is just not good enough right now. I think that if we get into more of a point where it's like, look, we're definitely going to be sitting here and the meta becomes much more like it was last year, where it's like it's not even mid-range hell. It's like there's always one other turbo deck at the table that everyone always molds to protect, or not protect, but like stop. And us and two other value decks, and it becomes whoever pushes first loses, right? If that's where we're going to be at in a meta, I think Delny crushes because I think that we have cards, like you said, that it enables so many other cards so well that it really can just brute force our way through a lot of things. Like if you told me right now that I go Delny with a Magda Totaro and a Relic out, that's literally a Bolus Citadel by tapping 2 things for mana. That's wild. That's a wild thing to do, right? So, um, I think Delny is great if your meta is looking like, hey, we're gonna like whoever's gonna push first is definitely losing this game. Like my meta right now, at least locally, not like that. Like one of the best decks or one of the best players right now in the area is on Joyra, the one that taps and puts counters on Joyra.
Mm-hmm.
He's just topped the last like 3 local tournaments. It's just Arkham Daxon with red. Like Arkham just won the didn't Arkham just win the freaking Tabernacle event?
They split the pot. They didn't actually play it out.
Uh, top forward?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like that's what we're looking at. We're looking at decks right now that are like, I'm just gonna activate my commander and do you have removal? Question mark? No? Okay, I guess I just win. Kind of thing. Or we're looking at decks that are like, we're just gonna bury you in the stack and not worry about it. But if you have so many things that you can do because of all the resources that you get, Delny is great. I will also say, if you're on Knuckles, Delny looks pretty fucking cool, right? Turn 2 Delny into turn 3 Knuckles, get a free Knuckles seems pretty dope. Um, Actually, it'd be more than that. It'd be 6 treasures technically, but I do think Delny is really good. I do think that this deck also at one point became just 3-drop tribal, and that's not great with Adnos. Um, 3-drop tribal just does not do well, but ironically, it's becoming 4-drop tribal lately. So it's like, I don't know. We're in this weird flux area right now, in my opinion, of like where we're really trying to optimize. But Delny, I think, is absolutely runnable. I think it's absolutely something that should be considered, and I think that if you are down with like especially like cards like a Johnny and stuff like that. Oh yeah, dude. A
Yeah,
Johnny
yeah.
dropping a Johnny and get 2 cats for it. Ugh, gross.
I
Like
just
it's
think,
so good.
just realistically, because my play pattern with Delny typically looks one of two ways. It looks like I have a creature like an Esper, a Lotho, or something like that that like trigger like a triggered ability, a creature on the board already into a Delny, and I pass the turn. That value already it says if I'm untapping, I'm winning 90% of the time. Or the other play pattern is I'm getting Delny out first, following up immediately with the Temna. I'm drawing a bunch of cards like
Yeah.
instantaneously. So I
Oh yeah.
think the play pattern is there, and I do agree. Don't put it into a turbo deck because it's not the turbo game plan. But I think realistically, like I'm on, including Dargo and Temna, I'm on 31 creatures. Delny works with 27 of them. Like
Yeah, I haven't
that's
even seen
not
that.
nothing.
That's good. No, no, it's not nothing at all. Okay.
Yeah, I want to. I have one last thing to say about this. So Delny, good card. I completely agree with everything that's been said. However, though, I I'm gonna push back a little bit on like the statement on if your meta looks like trying to bury you and card advantage and trap things on the stack. So I play in the Pacific Northwest. My meta is famously extremely responsible, extremely grindy, extremely mid range, and control heavy. I still play a turbo variant, and I've found a good amount of success playing that turbo variant. I don't think that we need to change the philosophy of the deck into a grind more plan with cards like Delny and stuff. I'm not saying it's wrong. All I'm saying is that I don't think that with the meta shifting towards decks like Rog Ishai, I don't think the initial move should be make my deck more grindy. I think the initial move should actually be jam silence more.
Um, I I find that very what's the word? I don't know what word I'm looking for exactly in my vocabulary, but
Mm.
how can you be notoriously responsible and yet jamming turbo is being more successful? That sounds absolutely the opposite.
And I yes, and it's because again, it's because you're so the way that I've built the deck is I'm always looking for a protected turn 3, right? That could be like something like cast silence, silence gets countered, and then continue to have the conversation of does anyone have anything else to give me a reason not to do this thing? No one gives me anything, push. I consider that protected because I've eaten the piece of interaction that they were holding on to. Or it can look something like, turn 1 voice into turn 2 or turn 3 push win. And generally, unless they have exactly force of will, they're not going to be able to counter that voice of victory that early in the game. Like that's where I've leaned my deck more towards is being able to establish a silence effect and to push win either the same turn or the turn after. And I found more success doing that than I have putting these more mid-range cards into my deck and playing their game because their deck is designed to do that. And yes, like we can design our deck to do the same thing. We can design our deck to be grindy and play the mid-range plan and be like really, really strong on board control pieces. However, we're going back to a conversation we had way before where we're a sorcery speed deck. So even though we can grind, the real only windows we're ever going to have is going to be on our turn. And our opponents are going to be able to exploit that. And so what I've found is that trying to make the deck more grindy doesn't work because people just have to survive your turn. And then once it passes your turn, you're out. That's it. You can potentially push a draw, but you're not going to have a way to actually win that game anymore. Excluding like if you happen to have E zone or if you happen to cast Final Fortune exactly at the right time and it not get buried like we're talking about, or it not be countered by something else after the cannon's already drawn 8 cards within this stack war. Like I've just found that making the deck more grindy doesn't actually help us in these grindy matchups. I'd rather just look for a protected turn 3 and then have assets of the deck that help me rebuy those pushes that I try to instate on an earlier turn. That's why I started adding reanimate, and that's why I think cards like Animate Dead and the whole Razkith package in general is extremely good right now.
Here's my only. I don't think that adding one card makes a deck inherently more grindy as a game plan. What I will say though is that I do think that Delny is a special case where because yes, we are not meant to grind like other decks. Our deck is actually really more meant to just be utilize its resources much more efficiently than other people's. So if you have a deck that is efficient with its resources or the ability to use its resources, right? It's about having a deck that uses that massive amount of resources, and because it can generate so many more resources, it's like we're them. So it's not exactly like we are, but it is effectively because we can go further with what we have. So I agree with you that like I'm not trying to sit here and be like, okay, I'm gonna have all these grindy cards. But Delny makes us go from like I can push 3 times with a little bit of resources. Okay, well, how many times can I push with a lot of resources? You know what I mean? So like, yes, if they can survive our turn, they probably win. But that's just the deck in general. Like, that's just
Yep.
how it is. You know?
I agree. It's just like now you're evaluating the resources you gained versus resources other decks have gained, and the table. Again, this is a pod cop thing, but your opponents are also evaluating what you have as well, and knowing that you're uh, a deck that is more explosive than the typical other deck that's in the meta right now. They're going to understand that you having any amount of resources is extremely dangerous. So they're going to be a little bit more responsible looking into that. So yeah, like we can do more with the resources that we've gained versus other decks within the meta. However, our opponents are going to know that also, at
No,
least in my experience.
no,
And so,
I do
yeah,
agree. I do agree with that. Like it. Well, let's just put it this way: if they don't know that, then they're not that good.
then you're winning the
Let's
game. And you can
yeah,
go to the next one. Great.
yeah, exactly. Like if you're just allowing that to happen, like if they haven't figured it out by now, then they're not gonna. You know what I mean?
I mean, to be fair,
Like
Kinnan
Yeah.
still wins in the same way. People still are still losing to that shit.
No, I mean,
yeah,
in Swiss games, I get away with shit that I should not get away with. I totally, but like in your top pods, like if I'm in a top 16, that's the last plan I'm trying to enact is grinding out. Like unless I absolutely have to, like I'm really not trying to grind out with these other extremely mid-range leaning and responsible decks. Like just that's just not a game plan that I have, in my experience, seen to be successful.
yeah. I can agree with that. All right. Where were we at? Delny. That's right, Delny. Delny, Mayhem Devil. I need to find. I want to find a spot for Mayhem Devil. I just think Mayhem is like one of my favorite.
It's just
And
not felt good to me lately, honestly.
I know, but I feel like I'm betraying my boy. I feel like see like again three drop tribal Mayhem Devil and Delny. I feel like I'm betraying like my heart for efficiency, and I hate it. I don't like it. It's not my favorite. Um, Ranger Captain, you better give me a damn good reason not to be on Ranger Captain. Once again, I think it's arguably the best white spell in the game, and I don't think that there's really much of an argument against it. I know that the guy from Critical was like, "I'm gonna cut it from Blue Farm," and I'll be honest with you, I met the guy, nice guy. I think that's Cuckoo Bird. Um, Ranger Captain, good. It's a tutor. It's
It
a silence effect. It's a body. Like I
it's
can't think of a
onboard
reason.
agency more than anything.
Yeah, it's just so good. It's so good. Professional Facebreaker, uh, insane value piece, win con with the techno loop, insane card. Just I can't tell you how many times I've won because Facebreaker was able to let me dig or something like that. Really really good. Uh, we'll get to Emperor because I know that's a more controversial card. I think that's it as far as 3 drops go. Okay, well, I guess we're talking about Emperor now. When I first got onto this deck, Recruiter of the Guard was the card that everyone was playing, and I'm like, why aren't we just doing Imp Recruiter? Doesn't that get ruthless? And they're like, yes. And we all switched to Imperial Recruiter. Joey is famously against Imp Recruiter. I just think that if Imp Recruiter is in the deck, it's just a copy of other cards in your deck that you want, which is kind of like the reason like Academy Rector and Pyro Heroes, the same kind of concept. The more cards that are just replicating quote unquote a card that you want, the better off it is. Yes, is it telegraphed? Yes. Yes, is it 3 mana? Yes. But I just think Imp Recruiter also like being a 1 card win con technically is something to note. Like I just think that Imp Recruiter has too many things that go with it. I do know that Joey has been animate. Look, dude, 3 drop, telegraphed, not good enough. Move on. Um, is that the basis of your argument, Joey, or is there more to it?
I mean that's basically it. Like I'm not gonna scoff at anyone playing Imp Recruiter. Like the card is good. It does say find Technomancer, which is, one of the more powerful cards in the deck. My real problem with Imp Recruiter is just like it's 3 mana, and a lot of the time you're going to find your thing you're looking for, but you're not going to have enough mana to continue to push for the line because you already have 3 mana investment pushed into this Imp Recruiter. And so on the general turn, you're going to play Imp Recruiter, you're going to show people what it is that you're trying to do, and then you're going to pass. And yes, like I'm not saying we don't have other stuff in the deck. Like we talked about Engineer before. Yes, Engineer has the same kind of play pattern. But like that difference between 2 and 3 is massive because our main grind plan is Timna. And so like Imp Recruiter is kind of conflicting with Timna in the same way. So I've just found that Imp Recruiter it's just not good enough for me. But I'm not going to scoff at anyone to not play it because yeah, it does find cards that are very powerful in the deck, and it does sack the Dargo. And like, if no one has absolutely anything, it can just be a Timna attacker. It has the 12 mana Jolly Balloon Man combo, whatever it is. Like yeah, there are pros to playing the card. However, I just don't think it's that good. I think there's better cards to play, like Entomb.
I am testing, cutting it, starting this month, seeing how it plays, because I kind of understand the logic.
I
just want
if
to see what it's like.
if you're doing that, dude, then just cut Jolly. Like
You're-
outright, dude. Like outright. Like that's just that to me is just
I'd follow.
they
I'd
they
I'd
go
follow that honestly. I
yeah,
run Jolly
I don't think
specifically
so,
because
but
I run Imp Recruiter.
yeah.
That's
I think
actually
that's
insane to me.
I think that's just misrepresenting what Balloon Man does, but I do understand the logic behind it. I just want to test it just to see if cutting that. I don't even remember what I cut for it in my list, but I just want to see if the 3 mana swap. I know I lowered it. I cut it for like something cheaper, so I just want to see if the tempo gain is better than it tutoring what I need.
That's
So
fair.
I'm just doing this. I'm just doing this more for science than like actually like no. Like I agree with Joey. It's more of just like he kind of makes a point, and unless I'm doing this like turn 1, like turn 2, the 3 mana is a detriment. Like it's very hard to follow up with any of the really good creatures you get because they're all either 2 mana, 3 mana, or they're 2 colors. You know, in the case of like Lotho and Balloon Man as an example. So
Here's one of the reasons why I'm pushing back on cutting Imp Recruiter, especially recently. It's a body to sack to Infernal Plunge, Burnt Offering, and Sacrifice, and Calling the Weak.
Empire.
All and Pyre. Um, uh, just for the sake of mana, Burnt and Sacrifice and Culling is 1 mana, get 3 mana now, or get 4 mana now. I think that's really good. Like Imp Recruiter becomes Imp Recruiter, get Ruthless Technomancer, Calling the Weak Imp Recruiter, cast Dargo, cast Ruthless. Like
yeah,
that.
no, of course.
Like I just
You
think
know,
that that's really good, but I totally understand the whole telegraph thing. That's definitely been something that's bothered me before about Goblin Engineer. It bothers me about Imp Recruiter. I also am not going to sit here and say, well, you should run Imp Recruiter because the best part about it is the 12 mana combo. Like, look, I've never pulled it off, but like,
yeah.
look, it is an argument to be had that you have a 1 mana, you have a 1 card win con now. Like that is actually a thing to note.
I do also think that one of the other differences between engineer and recruiter is recruiter doesn't cheat mana, engineer does.
Again, Recruiter is not meant to cheat mana. It's meant
No,
to
I'm telling you, but like in terms of like the similarities between like telegraphing, etc. Engineer telegraphs it, but it also cheats the mana. So like, yeah, you can telegraph something, but if I'm telegraphing something into something that I'm cheating effectively, it's a little bit easier to swallow that pill for me personally. For me, you know. But again, I'm not sold on this because I haven't even tested it yet. I just want to test it and see what it's like, you know.
Yeah, I will say, I think that this is just a playstyle preference. I like here's another thing that a lot of people, at least in my opinion, will Blue Farm could run this and get GA and Thassa's Oracle. Why doesn't it just do that? Because it's not good enough, right? Like it's just not. So like, but we are not Blue Farm. We need more cards that can do more things. So
Mhm.
like we have to
I
be better.
I would use the same argument for our deck, to be honest. Like it, yeah, like Impercutor grabs a lot of things, but like I just don't think it's good enough. Like I truly think that we just have better cards and better tutors to play than Impercutor, and like, that's why I think it's fine. Like I'm not gonna like look down upon your deck because you're playing Impercutor. I think it is a fine card, but I truly think we just have better cards to play,
Like what?
like Entomb. Like I think Entomb is just strictly a better tutor than Impercutor is. And
I mean, I think
that
there's an
can go
argument
into
to be
play
made that you can play
style
both.
and deck construction, but I truly think Entomb is just better than Impercutor.
Um,
Like I said, I think there's an argument to be made where you can find room for both. To be fair, you know, like
that's actually my argument right there is that like I'd actually just rather run both. If I really like really sitting here being like, look, I don't like how 3 mana and how telegraphed it is, then just run Grim Tutor. Like that's less mana, or not less mana. It's less telegraphed, same amount of mana, and we have rituals that can play it. So like
Yeah, but
I read,
I can't pyre my Tataru Taro into it though.
yeah. See that's another thing is that there's synergies with other cards in the deck, such as Pyre, such as things like that. Which
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Like I
But,
also love
but
that you go Impercutor into like, oh, what are you grabbing? I don't know, man. I'll just grab a professional face breaker, or I'll go grab Jolly Balloon Man. And like, oh, so you can make another Imperial Recruiter. Correct. Anyways, Pyre into Ruthless. Like, oh shit. Like you are dead. Correct. You are dead. Um, like I just think like stuff like that makes Imp-Recruiter good. But again, I totally understand. I very much understand and think that the argument for not having Imp-Recruiter is very valid. I think that yeah, there are better theories that we can have probably, and like I just like the synergies that it has.
my sneaking suspicion from my testing, and this is just based mostly on the fact that I know myself, is I think at the end of this, I'm going to be sitting there telling myself, if I'm going to be cutting this kind of effect, I would sooner cut Beseech than Imperial Recruiter. I don't know
Beseech,
why, but I feel like that's going to end up being the thought process that makes me want to keep Imperial Recruiter because I'm also not going to want to cut Beseech.
I
I would fight against that highly.
I'm just saying,
Just
like, I don't know if I
like
explained my logic there properly, but I think the logic that I'm going to come up to as to why I would keep Imperial Recruiter is because Imperial Recruiter doesn't cheat on mana. Beseech needs to cheat on mana for me to have it worth casting, and that's not a strong enough reason for me to cut Beseech. So if I'm not going to be cutting Beseech, I'm not going to be cutting Imp Recruiter. I think that's going to end up being like my train of thoughts to why I keep Imp Recruiter in after this. Um,
I
so,
think
but
I think they're very distinct because Beseech. I'm granted I'm not like a huge Beseech enjoyer either, but I do think it is correct to play in this deck. I love Beseech in this deck strictly because a lot of the time it's 4 mana, sack one more thing, and it's going to give you essentially 8 mana investment for four, or 4 mana investment for 8. Like that's the way I look at it because whenever you're casting Beseech, you're most likely going to find like a Ruthless Technomancer or something. And Impercruiter doesn't do that. Impercruiter is 3 mana put into hand, and then you need 4 on top of that to continue your line.
yeah, but
Beseech,
that line is also harder to interact with than Beseech.
I mean, I guess, but at the
You
same
know,
time, Beseech,
so
you can flip flop that and say Beseech is harder to interact with because you can instate your game plan earlier because of the ability to cheat on mana.
no, for sure, for sure. I definitely like see that. I think there's arguments for both to be cut, but I think what's gonna end up happening for me is I'm gonna realize that like what cutting Imp Recruiter does is not good enough because it's not changing anything for me. realistically. I don't know. I just feel like I want to test it and see what it's like because I definitely understand where you're coming from. It's 3 plus whatever you get. You can't do anything half the time when you're doing it early unless you're doing like a burnt offering kind of effect with Darga. But at that point, like, you need to find ways to get it back into play to then techno. So it feels like it makes a lot of hoops to do something right then and there, where Beseech does let you do something right then and there for 1 extra mana. And if I'm not going to be coming Beseech because of the whole feeling of it needs to cheat on mana, otherwise it's not worth it to me. If that's not a good enough reason for me to cut Beseech, then Impercruiter's not worth cutting either.
Let's
Okay.
move on from Impercruiter. Join Blue Man sucks. Moving on.
Mhm.
I will elaborate no further. No, I think for those of you who don't know what Jolly Blue Man does, it's a combo piece. It can give you value. It can do um, it's just a decent card for what we're trying to do. Makes the Entomb line with Ruthless Tenomancer even more clean. It's better with Pressure Facebreaker. It's good with your Treasure Dorks. It's good with Impercruiter. It's good with Ranger Captain. It's good with Deadpool. It's good with even Taro to some extent. Like, it's just an Orchestra Bowmaster. It's just good with everything that we can kind of do. Um, it's mostly a combo piece, though, that goes with Ruthless Technomancer. The line goes Technomancer, sack Dargo, recast Dargo, cast a Jolly Blue Man, make a copy of Ruthless Technomancer, sack Dargo, sack Jolly Blue Man to cast Dargo, reanimate Jolly Blue Man with Technomancer, rinse and repeat process, kill with the swing with infinite 1/1 with the Technomancers, um, so on and so on and so on. I think that Jolly Blue Man is replaced Curse Mirror because it was more versatile and doing what things do. I do want to make it clear that with the entrance of more creature removal into the meta, I don't know how resilient the Jolly Blue Man line is. I do think it is worth still keeping because it's still a much more clean line and you can do things with it. However, I do think that Jolly Blue Man is vulnerable because a lot of the removal that we're seeing nowadays is just going to be hitting things that it targets. But I do think it is the best piece for this combo. Other options that you can have that replace it are Cursed Mirror, Molten Duplication, but neither of those win on the spot. Jolly Blue Man does, so keep that in mind. But also, Cursed Mirror can be tutored up with Magda, so you can go Ruthless Technomancer, sack Dargo, recast Dargo, activate Magda, Cursed Mirror, win the game. So, like, there's other things that you can do with that. So it's just preference at this point. I know some people run Cursed Mirror, some people run Jolly Blue. Most people run Jolly Blue Man now. Um, I think for now it's good enough, and I will keep it for now. It is 4 mana, however, to make sure that you have 4 mana, and then it's not just the 3. Like for the Cursed Mirror, you need 4 because you need to create another token using its ability. As
One
far
What's the reason to not run both Mirror and JBM?
you just don't want repetition on or layering on your combos. I can't really honestly think of a reason to not run both, except for it's just not preference for your deck building. So
It's
right
just
now,
slots.
Cursemere also doesn't win on the spot,
I mentioned that. Yeah,
typically.
Yeah.
I did. Yes.
one thing I
Uh,
wanted to mention with Jolly Blue Man as well, it is swattable because it is a target ability on the create a copy.
so it's even weaker than I thought before. More cuttable by the day is what I'm hearing.
Because that has
Uh,
actually happened where people have like, cool, I'm gonna deswat your
Don't give away
activation.
my secrets, Ben.
Shut
yeah, this
up.
is so like again, Jolly Blue Man, in my opinion, is less mana but less resilient. Um, and Jolly Blue Man does have other things that it can do, again, like copying other things on their board. But that's actually very good to note that it's swattable.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
really
you can hover over it and
good.
read it. It says target creature.
That's really not.
Yeah,
That makes
it's
me think
happened to
about.
me. It's definitely happened to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to wait for that to happen.
Same.
After the first time that happens, I'll cut it and rip it to shreds. But
Yeah, because
until then,
somebody did that to me and they said, cool, you can have a copy of Dargo. I'm like, oh, sweet.
sick. I love Dargo. My whole deck is
All
amazing.
jokes aside, I think that the speed that it enables is just too good. I don't know. To me, Jolly Blue Man's uncuttable. I'll give it. I'll give it to him. I'll give it to him. The card's good.
So Delny is cuttable,
No,
but Jolly Blue Man is not. Got it because of the
Yep.
speed. The
Dude,
speed.
Yeah.
I'll stand by it.
I'm gonna push back. It's definitely cuttable because the deck won tournaments without it, so it's definitely cuttable. Uh, I will say that I do agree, though. It's the best option we have right now. But to answer the question of why not run both, that's just a you thing. I will say that for much of the time I've been piloting this deck, I had two ways to copy Ruthless Technomancer always in the deck. It was either Cursed slash Jolly Blue Man, and it was Molten Duplication. There's always been two ways to do it. So I think that that's a discussion for another town hall because frankly, I'm this close to putting Dual Caster Mage back in the deck. I am this close. I don't know.
I will also say
Because
that Blue Vampire is into Technomancer.
there is also that. There is also
And then
that.
you can reanimate it right after.
Exactly.
God damn it. I hate those
Oh
cards.
yeah.
Yeah, come
Yeah,
at me,
another
dude.
thing to note is Berlin Man, if you get swatted, you can just try again next turn. Whereas you can't do that with Cursed Mirror.
Assuming you get another
That
turn.
is
Yeah.
true. True. Yeah. All right. Well, it's back to being better. God damn it.
The sigh of defeat.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
didn't.
No, I mean, I run it.
I know we
What's
might
that?
have skipped over. We didn't really talk about the Squelcher.
We did not. It's okay. I think that the data says that this is actually supposed to be better for the deck. I don't have a copy of it, so that's the reason why it's not in my list now. I'll be very clear that that is the only reason why I have not been testing it because I don't have a copy of it. But it's
So
another silence effect.
I've recently gotten I've been back and forth on it, and recently it's come to my attention where it's really good, and where it's really good to me is I think when we sit down and play our games that we do, finding out who's holding interaction happens more often than it does not, correct?
Uh-huh.
So if I have a gamble, for example, or any kind of tutor, and I know there is no interaction with the deck, but they're not countering this specific spell, I'm grabbing Hexing Sculpture 90% of the time now instead of GA. Because you can counter the GA, you cannot counter my Sculpture. And then once that Sculpture hits the board, I'm free and clear 90% of the time.
I think Hexing
Yep.
Sculpture replaces any notion of playing defense grid.
I
Personally,
think I agree with that as well.
Yeah.
I think if there was any chance defense grid had about being in the deck again, it was gone when Hexing Sculpture was printed. How much is a foil now? 21. God
Yeah,
damn it,
it's
True.
it's hovering. I've been waiting for it to drop and it's not, so I'm just going to have to bite the bullet and pick it up.
Yeah, I'm just gonna bite.
It went down though. I regrettably bought my showcase foil for 80 when it first came out because I was like, I love
Need
the
it, need it,
card
need it.
and I was not incorrect about it. I think the card is amazing, and the card is actually beautiful. I don't know if you've seen it, the foil in person. It's
Oh
it's
yeah,
absolutely
it's
gorgeous. But yeah, so I bought it for 80, and yeah, I have no regrets.
yeah.
It
It's
brings me joy.
Not
showcase is
even
at
one
50.
better.
Brings me joy, wins me games. I'm cool.
Yeah, I think,
Uh,
but I think realistically
how much is the
that's
showcase?
it's change. Go hit the three dots.
I think it's only like
Hit
45 now.
change. Can
So I
you? Oh no,
lost.
you can't. You can't view it.
You can click view details.
Yeah, view details, and then you can see different printings of it. But specifically, that to me is where the play pattern has changed for me in the deck. Is when I know there is known counter magic, especially like a force of will. I am grabbing
Toggle.
this 90% of the time now.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
that
$50 still. God damn it. Oh my god.
It's
It's
gorgeous
a cute
though.
little thing.
So
He's a cute little
Matt
thing.
Forsyth is the artist from what is it? Is it Adventure Time? I think, or
Perhaps.
ooh, maybe. Hold on.
I think he's the artist from Adventure Time, if I'm not mistaken.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, that foil probably goes super hard.
It is. It's gorgeous.
And I will be clear, that is a good enough reason to run any card in a deck. Like this looks fucking awesome. Awesome. I'm running it. Like said and done. Like that's a good enough reason for
It's
me.
honestly why I have trouble cutting a Johnny too, because I have it in foil.
Oh yeah, dude. I have my foil one too. Every time I'm like just sad. Um, for sake of time, we'll move on to the 4 drops. Ruthless Technomancer. Do I need to
Bad
go into this?
card.
Bad
Do
card.
I need to go into
Terrible.
this? Okay. Yeah,
Cuttable.
cuttable. Most cuttable card in the deck. Moving on. Let's see here. Ruthless. Deadpool. I've already had my spiel about Deadpool. It's too good to cut now, in my opinion. Um,
Yawgmoth.
yeah. Let's talk
Good
about
conversation.
the elephant in the room. The 4 drop tribal Myrel Yawgmoth Academy Rector. I think of these 4, the most cuttable is Myrel. That's my opinion. This is not set in stone. The second most cuttable is Academy Rector. I think Yawgmoth is too good right now. I think Yawgmoth it's a combo piece, it's removal, it's card draw, it's advantage. I just think, especially in games where you're like, oh no, the Kinnan has all these creatures on board. Fine, just remove them with your treasure dorks. Like it is so powerful to me to be able to go treasure dork, Yawgmoth on turn 3, sack a treasure, Dargo, remove 2 things off your board, draw 2 cards. It's just too good. It's too good. Also, I don't know if you guys have ever had this happen to you. The protection from humans has been more relevant than I
It's
thought it would
relevant.
be.
Yeah, it's absolutely relevant.
Yep.
Which is so weird to me.
It's good Tim the attacker.
It's a good team attacker.
Very
It's
good
also a good
intended
blocker.
attacker.
It's a great blocker for Ranger Captain. So
Yep.
there's that. But yeah, Yawgmoth I think is the least cuttable card of the 4 drops, 3 4 drops that I mentioned. Um, Yawgmoth I think it's just good. Period. Academy Rector I think is it's just a much like Imp Recruiter. It's a copy of cards. It's a copy of Necro. It's a copy of Breach. It's a copy of Static Prison. It's a copy of whatever Goblin Bombardment. I've actually had many times where I go Academy Rector with Relic of Legends out, sack Academy Rector to cast Dargo, go get Goblin Bombardment, win the game. Like that's definitely an easy play pattern to follow. It's also copy of Smothering Tide when you want it to be. Mostly grabs Necro, but I'm testing without it. I actually, to be completely transparent, I'm testing Academy Rector because Razaketh is in the deck now. I'm testing Academy Rector because of Animate Dead and to test Sneak Attack. And yes, I'm not playing right now. I'm testing Sneak Attack in this deck because uncounterable creatures is good. Okay, that's my spiel on Sneak Attack. Plus it gives haste. So if you told me right now, okay, I get to Infernal Plunge my greedy freebooter and put 4 creatures onto the battlefield. Yeah, like I'm here for that. Or actually more accurately, I Infernal Plunge my Academy Rector to go get Sneak Attack to again put GA, then Dargo, then Ruthless Technomancer onto the field for 3 red mana. That's to me very cool. Is it gonna stick? Probably not. But is it cool? I don't know. I'll let you know. But Academy
That's
Rector,
used on Dragon Ball Z.
yeah. On Dragon's Ball Pay. Uh, I think it's really good. I think Academy Rector just being a copy of other things, especially with Tower, is really good. I think cutting Grim Monolith makes Academy Rector worse, but I still think that Academy Rector is highly recommended. If not, like, look, I get why you don't run it. I get why people don't like it. I get why it's not run. I don't think I'm not going to argue for it. It's just a play pattern thing that I've been testing. So up to you. Myrel is another Grand Abolisher that can be pired. If you're not on Pyre, I don't recommend Myrel like at all. I do not recommend Myrel. If you're not on Pyre, if you are on Pyre, try it, see if you like it. I fuck with it a little bit. I think it's great. I bought a foil one and immediately cut it. So I hate myself for that. But like other than that, like I think Myrel's good. I think if you're gonna be like, well, do I play Hexing Sculpture or do I play Myrel? Are you on Pyro Heroes? I'm not on Pyro Heroes. Hexing Sculpture is 100% the play. I'm on Pyro Heroes. You can still argue Hexing Sculpture because you have the Goblin package, but also Myrel is worth noting. I just think of the 4 drops, the least cuttable is Ruthless, followed by Deadpool, followed by Yawgmoth, followed by
Knuckles.
Academy Director, followed by Mariel. Am I missing one?
Knuckles.
Knuckles.
Knuckles? Yeah, he's not even on there.
Yeah, I don't know why. Yeah.
Knuckles and Smothering Tithe are the same card to me.
Yep.
Like, I'll just be honest.
Yeah,
So
that's
Smothering
fair.
Tithe and
Yeah.
Knuckles, same card. Like if you're on Smothering Tithe and you're like, well, I like creatures. Okay, run. If you're on Delty, run Knuckles. If you are, if you just like Smothering Tithe more as a card, run Smothering Tithe. Doesn't matter. I think
I
that
run both.
that's yeah.
I'm
You run
wild
Smothering
though.
Tithe and Knuckles?
Yeah.
How's that been for you, Ben?
I personally like it because then it gives me the flexibility. It goes, oh, this is a draw engine heavy game. I'm gonna go find me a Smothering Type. This is not. Oh, cool. I'm gonna find Knuckles. I like the flexibility of both.
I think that's a good plan if you're not leaning. If your list is not leaning into Nas, I think playing both of them is good.
Yeah.
Because they're both really good cards. The reason I don't play both of it is not because I don't like Tithe. It's just because I think Knuckles is better. But if I wasn't a Nas list, I would 100% play both.
Yeah, I play both because I while I have Nas in the list, I don't lean into it. I just play like if my hand shows me this cast Nas, I'm casting Nas. If it doesn't, cool. I have flexible options.
I will say, as far as like 4-drops go and like Nas versus not Nas, Trouble in Paris should be on everyone's list of like watch cards.
Yeah.
I preached for it when it came out, and I'm gonna do it again. The draw potential, the drawing card potential of Trouble in Pairs, especially in the meta that we're in right now, is absolutely bonkers.
So
Stops
I
Final
had a
Fortune
game
too.
when I first picked the deck up after you won your event, Kellen. I had like my third week on the deck. I landed a turn 2 Trouble in Pairs with no cards in hand. I untapped with 12 cards.
Yeah, that does not surprise me in the fight. Like
And I
I've
was
done
like,
the
that
math
was
on.
when I was sold on the card. I was like, this card is just.
Oh, dude, I've done the math. People go, well, what about the One Ring on turn 1? What about it? It's 6 cards.
Yeah.
It's 6 cards at best by turn 3. Trouble in Pairs on turn 2 can draw you 12 cards, and on average, it will draw you. On average, it draws you 7 or 8. It's just insane. But not in the deck, not on the list. But I definitely would mention it as like a keep your eye out for it kind of thing. We have been doing this now for about we're approaching 3
3
hours
hours. Yeah.
for this town hall. So that's the basic rundown on the staples. I think that if we want to get into more discussion about other cards, because there's definitely other cards I want to discuss, the next town hall we are probably going to start off with the topic of Chthonian Nightmare, because I think people have brought up enough lines with Chthonian Nightmare and Ruthless Technomancer where I'm like, this might be something we want to consider.
Can you pull up the card? I'm not familiar with it.
Chthonian Nightmare?
Yeah.
It's a 2
There it
mana
is.
enchantment that gives you 3 energy unless you reanimate stuff, paying energy instead of mana cost.
That's kind of interesting.
Okay, so what it used to be was the best
Reoccurring
freaking
nightmare, yeah.
Yeah, it was Recurrent Nightmare with Dockside. But now it is this. Now, what I've been told, and what I, by the way, if you're ever looking at my list, everything that's been in considering has either been played in a tournament or tested extensively. Everything on this list has. So if you're wondering, like, why are things here? There's no way I'd ever play Black Market. It was tested for a while. So was Blind Obedience. It's just, they were tested. So don't worry about it.
Did you ever test Spire of Industry out of curiosity?
No. Condition.
I have.
Yeah,
Because
condition.
that's what I'm on right now instead of Sacred Foundry, and I've kind of liked it.
I mean,
But
I definitely wouldn't mind testing it. Like, that's not a bad thing to test.
I tried it over Exotic Orchard for a little bit, but I just found that to be able to proc it versus Exotic Orchard relying on opponents, I would rather just Exotic Orchard. That's my personal
yeah.
take.
No, that's fair.
Me too. But to kind of segue into like our ending and like what we're gonna talk about next time. Apparently, Chthonian Nightmare and Ruthless Technomancer loops with your 1-drop Treasure Dorks or any 1-drop. It will loop.
So how does that loop? What does that loop look like?
Well, that's the, so
It's infinite sacks and ETBs. You don't make mana, you just have infinite. Because when you
it makes mana too.
how?
Yeah, 100% makes mana.
That's what I was
Because
asking. So what does the loop look like to make mana?
okay, hold on. Let's go to the messages, to the drawing board. Uh,
Because I'm a visual person. You can sit here and talk to me in the moon, but I got to be able to see it play out.
okay, well then, hold on. Sideboard. If you are a visual person, I'll show the zones here. Ruthless. Greedy freebooter. Okay. All right, here we go. So, go to, where the hell is all messages I have from these people? Okay, here we go. Technomancer resolves in second Dargo. Okay, Dargo already in field will have red Chthonian Nightmare in hand, or can be tutored. 1-drop creature in our yard. Maybe we sack it to cast Dargo. Say it's yours. Okay, here we go. So we have Dargo on the battlefield, Technomancer in hand. Graveyard is Greedy Freebooter, and Chthonian Nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Cast Ruthless Technomancer. Resolve sacking Dargo. Make 7 treasures.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Use 1 treasure. Recast Dargo. Neat. Use 2 treasures to cast Chthonian Nightmare. Neat. Token energy. Do we have energy as like a thing? Energy.
Okay, I see it.
Yes. Energy. Set counters to.
So we're down to
3.
4 treasures right now.
Yes, you should be down to 4.
Mm-hmm.
1 for Dargo, 2 for Chthonian. Yes.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. 4 treasures, 3 energy when it ETBs. Okay. Set counters to 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Activate Chthonian Nightmare. Return it to hand. Sack Technomancer.
Okay. So we pay
Going
1
down
energy.
to 2 energy.
Or 2 energy, yeah.
You go down to 2, yeah.
Yeah. Pay the 1.
Go down to 2 energy. Say again?
No, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
Okay. 2 energy, 4 treasures left. Technomancer's engrave. 1, 2. Cast Chthonian Nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
Go to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Activate Chthonian Nightmare. Sack Greedy Freebooter. Up 1 treasure. Put Ruthless Technomancer out. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
ETB. Sack Dargo. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Greedy Freebooter is in the grave. Recast Dargo.
Then go to 7, cast the Chthonian Nightmare.
Yeah.
Yep.
7. Nightmare.
Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah.
4.
And so notably this works with any 1-drop. It doesn't have to be a treasure dork, and it also works with 2-drops too.
Correct.
Yeah, I was hung up on the Technomancer Nightmare 1-drop loop. I just wasn't thinking of including Dargo in it. That's where I was getting confused.
So how many treasures is this creating them per loop? Because my only issue with this is it does not play well into a fish, but I want to see if it plays well into a Ristic.
Well, let's do one iteration of. Let's do one extra iteration. Right. So we were at 10 with this, and
No, you're at 9.
Set counters to 1, and I was at 9 treasures because I recast Dargo. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2. Here, sack. Go 1, 2, 3. Re-enter. Okay. 1, 2. Play. 1, 2, 3. Sack. Go up
It pays
1,
for Ristic Study.
2, 3, 4.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. I think it does.
It pays for it while also netting you an extra mana, so you can actually theoretically pay for 2 Ristic Studies.
Yeah. Okay.
I was about to say, I think you're getting like 5 treasures.
You're net. Yeah, you're netting.
No, you're netting 2. You're netting 2. It costs 5 in order to cast Dargo and cast Nightmare twice to get the whole loop going.
Yeah, but with
Well,
Wave,
you're
trading a
netting
treasure as
3
well.
because of with the treasure door. You're netting 3.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, okay,
So I was gonna
yeah.
say, see, you cannot pay for Ristic Study if you're not doing it with the Treasure Dork. If you are doing it with the Treasure Dork, you can.
Okay.
Yeah,
There
but
you
can't
go.
you still do it anyway? Because it costs 5
But
in total, and you're making 7,
1, 2. 1,
3.
1, 2, 3. Here. Sack. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
1, 2, 3. No, you can't. No,
it's
there's
2.
way too many risks that you trigger to pay for that.
but if you're doing it with a 2-drop, you can. If you're like, let's say you're doing it with like OBM, you can pay for every Ristic and kill people with OBM.
How can you pay for every ristic and
You're
not
only
produce more
casting 2
treasures?
spells. You're only casting Dargo and Chthonian Nightmare. Those are the only 2 spells you're casting.
But you're
And it
casting.
costs 5 mana total to sack Techno and reanimate Techno. It costs
And you're
5 mana total.
paying for Ristic twice with Chthonian is 6 mana. Plus
No, it's not.
Dargo.
It's 5. Nightmare's
Pay,
2. You cast Nightmare twice. That's 4. Dargo's
okay,
1.
cast Chthonian Nightmare. Pay for Ristic. That's 3.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Sack
Cast
Chthonian.
Dargo.
Cast Dargo. That's 5. Cast Chthonian Nightmare. That's 7. No, that's 8.
If it's 8, this doesn't work.
Right. That's what I'm saying is that you can't pay for every single Ristic Study trigger. You can pay for a lot, but you can't pay for all of it.
If you can pay for any through when you do the first iteration, you can pay for all of them, or you can pay for one. You can definitely pay for one.
There's no way
You are only spending 5 mana per loop. It's Nightmare twice and Dargo once. That's 5 mana. And Technomancer makes 7.
Okay.
And or the net mana you need, you can only pay for 1.
How many times are you triggering Ristic?
Oh, right. Sorry.
It's
Jesus
3
Christ.
triggers. It's 3 triggers per iteration.
Sorry. Yeah. Sorry.
You're okay. Just
So
making
yeah,
sure we're all on the same page.
that's
Yeah, we
the
are,
one
we are.
downside I'm seeing is the fact that this will not win through a Ristic, nor will it ever win through a fish.
It will not win through a fish or a Ristic unless you have a silence.
Yeah. And at that point, that's irrelevant at this point.
That is relevant, but that's why I want to talk about it next time. As like,
Yeah.
how many different ways can we win with this, and how many cards can we like? Would it matter to? Because this also is not a win.
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
This is not a win. However, there is a card that I have definitely know the name of off the top of my head without looking at my pictures right now. Don't mind me. Is this?
Better not be some TMT stuff.
That's not how you spell death. It's also not death.
I thought you were about to say Deathrite Shaman.
Dream Thief. Fairy Dream Thief. Okay.
Fairy Dream Thief enters the battlefield. Surveil 1.
So
Yeah, but you can do this with Supplier, right? Or is there a difference?
Is there what?
What's the real difference between this and Supplier?
There isn't.
Okay.
This is just a better Timna attacker.
Oh, okay, got it.
That is the but that's kind of my point. Is that like, would you put this in and Stitcher Supplier in for like, I don't know, name another card kind of thing? Like that's kind of what the
okay.
discussion's.
Well, I'll do you one better. Why not do the new Dream Beaver?
What?
If I type in Dream Beaver right now,
Deadass, Dream
Real
Beaver.
Got him.
That's what they said about my.
Tell me this isn't better.
The name. Get that out of here.
It loses 1 life, you gain 1 life on ETB. Tell me that's not better.
And you scry one.
And you scry 1. Tell me that's not better. That's a win con. With this loot.
They're both win cons.
But this kills the 1 protection. 1 ring.
God damn it!
Dude,
Okay, hear me out.
Let me
Hear
cook.
me out. I
swear to
I
God,
think
I have to type in to my play nice. What was your win con? Dream Beavers.
Don't fuck with
I
me,
think we should get together and do a town hall, and all of us should brew an aristocrat version of Tim Dargo. Because
Down.
I
Well,
think
you
it's
already have
out
yours
there.
done.
Yeah, I think because I've brewed one and I it's decent. Like I've thought it out and I really think it's out there. But like I actually think that the deck could be really, really good. And then we could put Dream Beaver in it, so that's a plus.
Hell yeah, dude. I'm down for that.
Well,
He's
I will
typing
say
his
this, that
13th
will be
reason
next.
right now.
Yeah.
13 reason is Dream Beavers.
Yeah.
Well, play Dream Beaver.
We're going to evaluate whether or not we're diluting the potency of this deck with this idea in mind, with Chthonian and Ruthless and Dream
I can't
Beaver.
wait to hear Jared's thoughts when we ask him to do the math on how likely we are to win with Dream Beavers.
Dude, I'm taking a shot every time he says Dream Beavers.
You're gonna be so fucking wasted.
I
gonna
just
tell you right
great.
now.
want to direct everybody to the 1-drop champions and scroll all the way to the very top, and you'll see the Dream
Joey, when we
Beavers.
do that town hall, you and I have to stream ourselves every time he says it. We just have to cheers.
Wait, is Dream Beavers actually in 1-drop champions at the very
Scroll
top?
all the way to the top, brother.
I hate this. I hate this so much. I hate that the first fucking post for this is literally Dream. Oh,
It
man.
flies, by the way.
It does not.
The flying beaver.
It is just better. It is just better.
Tell me that's not better than DRC. 100%.
Oh my god.
Dude, I'm for it.
All right, next town hall. Titling it Dream Beavers ? Why? Why not?
Dude,
All right.
I have a dream, and that dream
Oh
is
my
that all of
God.
us can play Dream Beaver.